come sit beside me for a while, my dear. You know, as I settle into this old rocking chair and let the soft lamplight warm these worn hands, I remember times when the world felt both vast and intimately fragile. There were days when I, too, felt small, a tiny flicker against a vast tapestry of time, much like the first shy star emerging in the twilight of a quiet evening. In those moments, I learned that feeling insignificant was not a failing, but a gentle reminder of just how miraculous life is, even in its humblest details. You see, there were long stretches of my youth when the weight of questions, the ones that pressed so hard against the door of my heart, left me staring at the sky, wondering, why am I here? What is my place in this sprawling, endless universe? And I'd ask myself, is it so terrible to feel minute, just a small part of this endless turning world? My dear, the answer I slowly discovered was that feeling small is not something to be feared or shunned. Rather, it is an invitation, a quiet call to seek the depth of our souls, to find meaning in the silence and softness of our daily lives. I remember a time when the wind outside was gentle, caressing the house with a care that only nature could muster. As I listened to the rustling leaves, I thought about the tender yet persistent nudges life gives us. These moments, when everything seems to whisper questions into our ear, are opportunities to explore the landscape of our own hearts. They tell us that even when we feel so very little, there is beauty in our smallness, a beautiful sign that we are on the cusp of understanding something wonderfully deep about ourselves and our connection to the world. Now, my dear, let's talk about those feelings, those quiet shadows that sometimes fall over our days. They might come as a soft sigh when you're looking out the window, or perhaps in the quiet hum of the night when the world seems to hold its breath. Have you ever noticed how the smallest things can sometimes feel so profound? A single raindrop sliding down the window pane, the gentle glow of a street lamp cutting through the darkness, or the quiet murmur of your thoughts when no one else is listening. These are the moments that shape our inner lives. They remind us that being small is not a sign of weakness, but a delicate embrace of life's true essence. There were evenings when I would sit with a cup of tea in my favorite old mug, one that's seen many winters and countless storms, and simply let my mind wander. I'd think of all the burdens I had carried and the times I had doubted myself. And in those moments, I realized that every heavy thought, every surge of uncertainty was like a seed buried in the soil of my being. At first, it might seem as if it could never bloom, but given time, with patience and gentle care, it grew into something unexpectedly beautiful, a lesson, a memory, or a quiet revelation that we are all part of something much larger than ourselves. Remember, my dear, that those moments when you feel small are precisely when you are in touch with the very fabric of life. In our search for meaning, we often equate smallness with insignificance, but I'm here to tell you that there is deep strength in vulnerability. When you dare to feel the weight of your own smallness, you're also opening the door to a grand, unspoken wonder that resides in every quiet corner of your soul. It's like the soft piano notes in a dimly lit room, each note fragile yet capable of filling the silence with a tender, lingering melody that speaks of resilience, hope, and the sheer beauty of being. You might sometimes ask yourself, why is this so hard? Why do I feel like I'm just a whisper in a roaring crowd? And that, my child, is a question as old as time itself. Every one of us has walked that delicate line between feeling deeply connected and painfully alone. It's in those moments of apparent isolation that we have the chance to listen more closely to ourselves, to understand that the soft echoes of our doubts are not a threat, but rather an invitation to explore our innermost dreams. I recall many nights when the darkness outside mirrored the uncertainty in my heart. I would lie awake, listening to the quiet hum of the house, pondering the vast questions about existence and purpose. It was during those times of solitude that I came to understand that our smallness does not diminish our value. Instead, it enriches our experiences and teaches us the gentle art of being present. Each little moment, each small, seemingly insignificant detail adds up to create a life that is both fragile and incredibly profound. As you journey through these quiet hours, know that every time you feel small, you are not alone. Think of the countless souls who, through the ages, have also felt the cool night air and the bittersweet whisper of time passing by. We are all travelers on a shared path, carrying our own tender histories and our own secret hopes. And in acknowledging our smallness, we learn that the most meaningful connections are forged in the spaces between our doubts and our dreams. Perhaps you've noticed the way certain memories surface unexpectedly. Those gentle recollections of a smile shared, a kind word uttered, or a moment of warmth in an otherwise cold day. These memories, though fragile, are the living proof that even in our most diminutive moments, there is immense beauty to be cherished. They are like the soft glow of fireflies on a summer's night, tiny sparks of light that dance in the dark, reminding us that even a small light can brighten up the darkest corners. And so, as I speak to you now, I want you to understand that it's perfectly all right to feel small. There is grace in that humble feeling, a quiet power that comes from recognizing that we are indeed a modest part of a vast and wondrous universe. In those moments, when the weight of the world seems too heavy and your heart feels burdened, remember that you are allowed to be a whisper, a gentle presence that, in its own time, will join the chorus of life's grand symphony. Life, my dear, is not about the grand, flashy moments or the overwhelming need to be larger than life. It's in the soft cadence of our daily existence, the subtle artistry of small gestures, and the quiet echoes of our inner voice that we find our true self. Each day brings a new lesson, a delicate reminder that in the tapestry of time, it is the tiny threads, each full of quiet resilience and unspoken beauty, that weave together the story of who we are. I want you to hold this thought close, that feeling small is not a failure, but a tender beginning. It is the opening stanza of a beautiful ongoing conversation with your own heart. Let these moments of quiet introspection be your guide, illuminating the path with gentle wisdom that only comes from truly knowing yourself. And as you sit with these thoughts, allow the soft cadence of your heartbeat to remind you that every whisper of doubt carries with it the seed of something extraordinary, a promise that with time, care, and a little bit of magic, even the smallest spirit can light up the darkness. You know, sometimes in the quiet moments of our day, when the world seems to recede into a soft hum around us, I find comfort in the simplicity of nature. I recall evenings when the sky turned a deep indigo and the first silver glimmers of stars began to emerge, each one a tiny beacon in the grand expanse. It's in those moments when you feel incredibly small against the canvas of the universe that you can also feel a deep, abiding connection. Think of each star as a reminder that the universe is full of marvels, and each tiny flicker is a celebration of mystery and possibility. There are times, my dear, when you might find yourself wondering if being small means you lack importance. But let me share a secret with you. In that vast, intricate dance of existence, every small step, every modest whisper of life holds its own profound significance. Remember when you were young and every new discovery was an adventure that colored your world with wonder? Those moments weren't insignificant at all. They were the building blocks of a life steeped in beauty and meaning. And even now, when you sometimes feel like a single note in a vast symphony, know that every note matters in the grand melody of existence. Now, perhaps you ask yourself, how can something so small ever matter when the universe is so overwhelmingly vast? And that is precisely the heart of the matter, isn't it? You see, it's not about the size of the light, but about the warmth it radiates. A single candle can chase away the deepest shadows, and a single kind act can ripple out and change a life. So, when you feel insignificant, take comfort in the knowledge that even the smallest spark has the power to ignite profound change. It's funny how life has a way of showing us that the smallest details often hold the deepest truths. Do you remember the sound of rain tapping softly on the roof during a quiet afternoon? That rhythmic patter, almost like nature's own lullaby, seems to sing a song of persistence and renewal. It teaches you that every drop, no matter how modest, is vital to the creation of a nourishing stream. Likewise, every tiny experience, every flutter of hope, and every whisper of doubt adds up to create the rich tapestry of your life. Each little experience is a thread woven carefully into the fabric of who you are, and together they form a portrait of resilience, beauty, and unyielding hope. I often find myself reflecting on the days when I felt overwhelmed by the vastness of my dreams and the apparent insignificance of my actions. In those times, I'd take a long walk under the open sky, letting the cool night air fill my thoughts. With each step, I'd whisper quietly to myself, "It's all right to feel small." It's in these moments of quiet humility that you discover the true essence of your soul, and slowly, the weight of my worries would lift, replaced by understanding that each of us, no matter how modest our presence may seem, plays a unique part in this intricate dance called life. I remember a particularly crisp autumn evening when the leaves danced their way down to earth, each one a delicate masterpiece in its own right. Watching them, I realized that no leaf ever complained about its fate to fall, to become part of the rich, fertile soil. In their graceful descent, they found beauty and purpose. And so it is with us. Sometimes, our moments of falling, of feeling small, are simply our way of making room for new beginnings. They are opportunities to let go of what we think we ought to be and embrace the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. You see, my dear, there is a profound freedom in accepting the ebb and flow of our feelings. When you let yourself be vulnerable and acknowledge that it's okay to feel small, you also open the door to experiencing life's extraordinary tapestry of wonders. It is in the quiet acceptance of our own fragility that we find the strength to soar. Like a balloon that gently lifts off only when you let the air inside, our spirits can rise when we release the burden of feeling overly significant in a world that is already wondrous in its myriad details. Let me tell you about another evening, a time not too long ago, when I sat on my porch listening to the soft hum of conversation from a nearby gathering. The voices, low and comforting, blended with the chirp of crickets and the occasional rustle of a night breeze. In that serene moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. It was as if the night itself whispered that every small presence, every quiet breath, contributed to a larger, beautiful narrative. In that narrative, no single moment is wasted. Even the quietest times are treasured for the secrets they hold and the lessons they gently impart. It's natural to wonder, sometimes with a slight tremor in your voice, why am I so affected by these fleeting moments? And that, my dear, is the wonder of our human heart. Our ability to feel deeply, even when it seems that the sensation is of being all too small, means that we carry within us the capacity for immense empathy, for understanding beauty in its purest form. This sensitivity, while it may bring moments of solitude or melancholy, is also the very tool that allows us to connect with others on a level that transcends words. It is a gentle reminder that our shared experiences, no matter how minute, bind us together in a web of collective memory and hope. I often liken our small moments to the soft touch of a breeze on a stifling day. They may be subtle and easily overlooked, yet they have the power to soothe, to heal, and to remind us of the simplicity and grace of life. Think of a time when a simple act of kindness, a smile from a stranger, a word of encouragement, lifted your spirits in a moment of despair. In those instances, the universe whispered that you were exactly where you needed to be, and even a small gesture was enough to change the course of your day. In our journey, we sometimes stand at the crossroads of what feels like overwhelming insignificance and the dawning of a newfound strength. I remember the days when the mirror reflected not just my aging face, but also the myriad stories etched into every line and wrinkle. Each mark was a testament to a lifetime of quiet victories and tender defeats. And though I might have once yearned to appear larger than life, I learned that each of those marks was a narrative of resilience, a symbol of moments when I embraced my smallness to build something bigger from within. It makes one wonder, doesn't it, how something so seemingly minute could carry within it an ocean of stories and memories. And therein lies one of life's grandest mysteries. The paradox of our existence is that our sense of smallness often allows us to see the world with a clarity that the grandiose might miss. When you learn to treasure the gentle cadence of your own heart, you begin to notice the small miracles that pepper your days. A shared glance with a loved one, the quiet support of a friend in times of need, the subtle beauty of a sunrise breaking through the darkness. I want you to understand that these moments, as delicate as they are never wasted. They are like the soft notes of a piano playing a lullaby in the background, a melody that may be quiet, but one that resonates deeply within your soul. The tender interplay of light and shadow, of joy and sorrow, forms the very essence of your unique journey. And when you feel small, it is simply because you are precisely tuned to the gentle harmonies of the universe. A universe that, despite its vastness, cherishes even the faintest glimmers of light. And so, my dear, as you drift into the quiet hours of reflection, remember that it's okay to feel small. It is in these moments of gentle vulnerability that you find the courage to grow, to blossom, and to embrace the beauty of life in all its intricate details. Your smallness is not a void. It is a space filled with endless possibility, a canvas upon which you paint the subtle hues of your life's narrative. When you find yourself questioning, "Am I really enough?" know that the answer lies not in the size of your voice, but in the sincerity with which you speak it. Every quiet word, every soft-spoken thought carries a weight that is measured not in volume, but in the depth of its meaning. In the tender quiet, where the loud clamor of the world fades away, you can hear the true song of your soul, a song that, though whispered, reverberates across the vastness of your life. I've come to see that the beauty of being small is that it allows you to cherish every moment with a purity that the bustling noise of grandiose ambitions might cloud. In those quiet interludes, life reveals its secrets in the rustle of leaves, in the smile of a stranger, and in the gentle murmur of your own heartbeat. And as you sit in that stillness, consider that perhaps your journey is not about becoming the largest, the loudest, or the most pronounced. It's about savoring the soft, unassuming moments that, together, create a life filled with wisdom, kindness, and quiet wonder. So, if you ever pause and feel that familiar twinge of smallness, let it be a tender reminder of just how deeply connected you are to every gentle breath of life. For it is in this very sensitivity that your strength is born, a strength that comes from embracing the soft resilience inherent in every heartbeat, every whispered dream, and every fleeting moment of quiet reflection. And as the night deepens and the stars continue their silent vigil above, remember that you are cherished beyond measure. Every small experience is a precious gem, each one a silent poem inscribed upon your heart. Embrace them fully with a tender acceptance that comes only from knowing that it is perfectly fine to be small, for in the quiet spaces of life, you will always find the seeds of an everlasting, gentle beauty. You know, sometimes I sit by the window on a quiet afternoon and find myself thinking about how you might be feeling right now. Maybe a bit overlooked, or perhaps like your thoughts are drifting in a vast sea. I remember a day not too long ago when I was walking through a narrow back street in a small town. It wasn't a place marked on any grand map, but it had a charm all its own. A collection of little storefronts that each held their own quiet story. That day, I found myself pausing in front of a modest, time-worn bookstore. Even though the shop was tucked away, its windows were laden with tales that reached far beyond the physical space. It spoke of generations of dreams, losses, and the delicate persistence of hope. I stepped inside, and there was a sort of quiet energy that you can feel if you're willing to listen. Not the loud, boisterous energy of a crowded room, but the kind of simple presence that says, "I've seen days like yours, and I know how it feels." The owner, an unassuming man with gentle eyes, looked up from behind a counter cluttered with worn paperbacks. In his steady gaze, I saw not judgment or pity, but a deep understanding. He began to share with me the story of how this place came to be, a place where local folks had once gathered to swap stories and secrets over steaming cups of coffee. As he spoke, his voice was quiet yet resonant, a reminder of all the small, significant moments that often pass unnoticed in our everyday lives. That conversation nudged me into reflection. It reminded me of a time when I, too, felt rather unseen. A day when every step felt burdened by the weight of a quiet, gnawing uncertainty. I was younger then, not in age but in spirit, and I was traveling through a city that felt both dazzling and unforgiving. I wandered through crowded streets, feeling isolated amidst the hustle, my mind echoing with questions. Am I making a difference? Do these small steps count? I recall sitting on a park bench under a sky that seemed as endless as my doubts. And in that moment, I realized something subtle yet remarkable. It wasn't about filling a gap with grand events or monumental gestures. Instead, it was about recognizing that every little choice and every small step was weaving a tapestry that was uniquely mine. It might seem odd to say that being small or feeling small is a kind of quiet blessing, but I've come to appreciate that it offers you an unobstructed view of the intricate details around you. Think back to moments when you felt like you were truly watching, rather than being the center of the scene. Maybe it was a rainy morning when the world outside was wrapped in mist, and you felt safe and introspective by a window. Or perhaps it was one of those evenings when, while the world pressed on relentlessly, you found solace in your own thoughts, noticing the gentle interplay of light and shadow on familiar walls. In those times, you weren't lost. You were simply seeing things as they are, with clarity and without the burden of having to be something larger than life. I can see you might be wondering, why does it always feel like I'm just skimming the surface, never quite diving deep into the mysteries of my own existence? It's a fair question. There was a period in my life when I felt as if I was merely drifting, too small to leave any tangible mark on the world. I remember a long, quiet stretch after a series of setbacks when each day blended indistinguishably into the next. It was as if the days were whispers, easily lost in the hum of ordinary routines. Yet, during that time, something unexpected happened. I began to notice the overlooked details. A creased letter passed along quietly, the soft murmur of a neighbor's greeting, the way the light shifted gradually from one hue to another as the day progressed. These weren't dazzling moments of triumph, but rather subtle nudges that rekindled my understanding of how deeply connected all these fragments were. They were reminders that even when life feels unspectacular, there's an entire world of texture and nuance waiting to be embraced. And here's something I want you to keep in mind. Your perspective on these small moments matters more than any grand proclamation. Rather than dismissing your feelings as trivial, allow yourself to consider them as part of your journey. They're the quiet conversations you have with yourself late at night, when your thoughts are unhurried and sincere. I like to think of those evenings as chapters in a larger narrative, a story that doesn't need a dramatic climax to hold meaning. Even the softest rustle of pages turning in the quiet of night can be a moment of profound connection to who you are. You might ask, is it really okay to simply be content with noticing the little things? I believe it is. In a world where there's constant pressure to be bold and to leave a resounding mark, it can seem counterintuitive to find value in the understated. But consider the gentle way that quiet rain nourishes the earth, or the soft glow of a single lamp in a dark room. In those moments, there's a beauty that's unadorned, yet entirely complete in its simplicity. It reminds me that often the most enduring lessons come not from overwhelming triumphs or catastrophic failures, but from the everyday rhythms that quietly shape our lives. There was also a day when, feeling particularly small, I decided to revisit some old letters from my youth. They were simple, almost ordinary words pressed onto paper, yet each one carried the honest tone of a time when every sentiment, no matter how humble, mattered deeply. I read about dreams that were fragile, hopes that had yet to find their wings, and even the quiet admissions of doubt that somehow made the future seem full of possibilities. Those letters, with their scratched ink and delicate paper, spoke to me of a life that wasn't defined by grandeur. Instead, they celebrated the resilience of a spirit that found strength in its gentleness. A lesson I hope you, my dear, will carry forward in your own story. Now, think for a moment about the times when you felt that delicate tug of insignificance. Remember how, in the midst of a busy day, your heart might pause and wonder if all those small choices truly amount to something meaningful. I felt it too. And what I learned is that those moments are not a prelude to failure, but a quiet interlude in a concert of life. They offer you the chance to pause, to consider what might be overlooked in the rush of events. It is in these spaces, free from the clamor and expectation, that you often find your truest self, the part of you that is not defined by achievements or accolades, but by the simple, raw pulse of being alive. Imagine sitting here with me for just a little while longer as we share this unhurried conversation. I want you to consider that every small step, even the ones that seem barely perceptible, creates ripples. Over time, those ripples gather, slowly carving out channels of change in the vast, unpredictable landscape of life. And though you might sometimes feel like a quiet observer, remember that your presence, your unique way of seeing the world, adds a delicate brushstroke to the grand canvas of existence. I'd like to leave you with this thought, that every fleeting moment of doubt, every quiet instance when you wonder if you're too small to make a difference, is also a gentle call to notice the immense beauty in the ordinary. It invites you to reconnect with the parts of yourself that delight in simple marvels, a shared smile with a friend, the calm of a well-worn chair by a window, or even the quiet understanding that springs from looking at life without pretense. Your story, in all its softly unfolding chapters, is a tender epic of subtle moments woven together into something remarkably whole. So, as you continue your own journey, take heart in knowing that even in your smallest moments, there is a story unfolding, a story that is as real and significant as any grand tale you might hear. Trust that in this quiet reflection, you are not diminished, but instead finding a path to a deeper, more genuine understanding of who you are. And in that understanding lies a beauty that no loud declaration or flashy moment could ever capture. Now, my dear, let's take a moment together, a gentle pause amid the hustle, to consider the days you've been living. Sometimes it feels like we're swept along by the steady current of time without ever really stopping to ask, how have I been? Think about your morning, the way you woke up, the quiet ritual of starting your day. Was it filled with a sense of purpose, or did you simply rise out of habit? As you go through your week, your month, your year, it might help to ask yourself what moments have quietly nudged your heart, and which ones have slipped by unnoticed. I recall a time when the calendar pages seemed to fly past me, each day blending into the next like soft watercolors on a rainy afternoon. It was during one of those periods that I decided on a quiet evening to simply sit and reflect, really look back at each day as if it were a small gem to be treasured. I thought about the time when I helped a neighbor carry grocery, the fleeting smile exchanged with a stranger on the street, or even the quiet conversations that filled my evenings. There was no grand gesture, no blockbuster moment, only the tender accumulation of small acts that, together, formed my story. Have you ever felt that your day was like a book with many short chapters, a chapter of quiet tasks, another filled with unexpected laughter, or one carved out by a long pause of solitude? It's in those everyday chapters that the real narrative of your life unfolds. When you look back on your week, what stands out? Perhaps it's not the busy schedule or the milestones you ticked off a list, but rather the subtle ways your heart reached out in moments of connection. A kind word from a friend, the soothing hum of your favorite song playing softly in the background, or the peaceful silence just before sleep. Each of these moments reflects the unique rhythm of your life. Now, let's go even deeper. Think about your month or even your year as a collection of these small, quiet moments. What stories do they tell? Maybe this past month taught you about patience, or perhaps it revealed the strength in vulnerability. Sometimes we overlook these lessons because they don't come wrapped in grandeur. Instead, they arrive gently, like a soft knock at the door when you're least expecting it. I remember once, after a long span of seemingly ordinary days, I looked back and realized how much I had grown simply by feeling each moment fully, even the ones that seemed insignificant at the time. There was an unspoken wisdom in a quiet perseverance of living, in celebrating every tiny victory and learning from every small stumble. I want you to think about your own life in a similar way. Recall a day when the morning light broke through the window just as you were lost in thought. Maybe a week ago, you found yourself pausing amidst your routine, noticing the way the afternoon sun cast a different shade on familiar surroundings. These are the markers of a life lived with a mindful awareness, a recognition that even the most unremarkable moments contain seeds of growth and learning. It's not about comparing your journey to grand adventures or monumental events. It's about honoring your personal narrative, every single chapter, however quiet it may seem. Let's talk about the days that might have felt a little heavy or unusually slow, when the clock ticked by and you felt as though nothing significant happened. I used to think that those were wasted moments, but then I realized something precious. Those quiet intervals are exactly when our minds and hearts have the space to process, to dream, and to simply be. They allow us to rest and prepare for the bright, bustling moments that follow. In that gentle stillness, we often find the clarity to appreciate the simple beauty of our existence, the way the familiar becomes a silent teacher that gently guides us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. Have you ever sat down after a long day and, with a soft sigh, reflected on the little joys and quiet sorrows that made up your hours? Maybe you noticed the way your thoughts wandered like a lazy river, meandering through memories and hopes. That reflection, however light or fleeting, is a testament to the depth of your inner life. It's in these moments that you might see, without the glare of busyness, the tender interplay of your emotions, a mix of fleeting hopes, careful doubts, and small affirmations that whisper, "You are here, and that is enough." There's a certain grace in allowing yourself these reflective pauses, in evaluating each day not by a checklist of achievements, but by the warmth of the moments that touched you. It could be the sound of laughter echoing softly in your ear, or the gentle reminder of a shared glance with someone who understood without words. Think about it. Each day, like every season, carries its own flavor. And while a single day might seem like a mere drop in an endless ocean, over time, those drops shape the contours of your life's unique landscape. Perhaps you've been carrying unspoken questions too. Quiet contemplations about whether your actions, however small, have made a difference. Trust me when I say that they have. There was a time when I wandered through days feeling unremarkable, questioning if my seemingly minor efforts ever counted. Then one twilight, as I sat in the soft glow of a street lamp, I began to see that every thoughtful word, every small kindness had a ripple effect. It wasn't about grand declarations or monumental choices. It was the cumulative effect of living with intention, of cherishing the little, understated moments that gently guide us along our path. So, as you ponder over your day, week, month, or even your entire year, try to see the beauty in the details, the laughter, the quiet tears, the moments that made you pause and wonder, is this all there is? And then gently remind yourself that every day, in its own soft way, is a mosaic of meaning. It's a reminder that you don't have to be loud to be heard or grand to be seen. Your quiet reflections, your honest evaluations, and the small, tender moments that color your everyday life are what make you truly remarkable. Every time you assess your time, consider it a personal tribute to the simplicity of being. Instead of measuring success by how big your footprints are, consider the depth of the impressions you leave behind on others and on yourself. Even the softest murmur of self-reflection has the power to transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. I ask you, in this peaceful moment of reflection, to really sit with these thoughts. Look back at your recent days and ask, were there moments when a quiet smile crossed your face even without knowing why? Times when you felt a gentle satisfaction just from simply being who you are. In those moments, your heart learned something important about perseverance and subtle strength. They may not shout for attention, but their quiet resilience is the foundation of a life lived with depth and empathy. As you continue along your path, remember that evaluating your days does not mean dwelling on them with harsh judgment. Rather, it is an act of kindness towards yourself. A gentle review that allows you to recognize the beauty in your small, often hidden moments. Each day, each week, each month is a chapter written in the ink of your experiences. And while some chapters might seem quiet or unremarkable, when read together, they tell a story of quiet courage and heartfelt living. Take this gentle time to be with yourself, to appreciate your efforts, and to honor the subtle harmony of your life. In recognizing the worth of each tender moment, you find that every single day, no matter how ordinary it might seem, holds a special kind of magic, a kind of quiet wisdom that speaks softly, urging you to continue on this journey with an open heart and a clear mind. So tonight, as the day draws to a close, allow yourself to sit quietly and reflect, much like I am doing now with you. Let the softness of your memories guide you, not as burdens to carry, but as quiet trophies of a life well lived. And when tomorrow comes, greet it with the gentle assurance that your small, honest steps are a part of a larger, wonderfully intricate dance. A dance that, in its unassuming grace, is utterly and profoundly your own. You know, there was a time in my own life when I felt like I was simply drifting along, not sure which way to turn. I wasn't always this steady, reflective soul you might see today. In fact, there was a period, long enough to leave its mark, when the world seemed both endless and utterly quiet, with all its grandeur somehow out of my reach. I was young then, brimming with plans and restless energy. I thought I had to be big and bold, carving my mark on the world every day. But as the years passed, I learned that life doesn't always show its worth in loud victories or grand adventures. Often, it whispers its secrets in quiet moments of self-reflection. I remember vividly one day that changed my perspective. I was returning home from a long day's work, my steps heavy with the burden of unfulfilled dreams. The city streets were bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, casting long shadows on the pavement. I took a detour through a little park, a place I rarely visited, and there, on a worn wooden bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, I paused. My mind was awash with all the hopes I had once believed would burst forth, and suddenly I was overwhelmed by the simple truth that I was just one person among countless others, each on their own quiet journey. As I sat there, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves around me, and for a long moment I closed my eyes. I let myself feel all the emotions that had been swirling around inside: regret for missed chances, a touch of sorrow for old mistakes, and a quiet, persistent hope that maybe, just maybe, every small step forward counted. In that reflective silence, I came to understand that my smallness was not something to lament, but a precious reminder of my individuality, of the unique way I had experienced life. It was as if the park, with its humble beauty, had handed me a gentle nudge. Your journey is yours alone, and every tiny moment is part of your legacy. From that day forward, I started to embrace my life's quieter chapters. I learned to value the soft routine of everyday moments, the familiar creak of the floorboards at night, the faint aroma of fresh coffee in the morning, the genuine smile of a neighbor. These simple experiences became my milestones. They marked my passage through time with quiet significance. I even began keeping a small journal, jotting down my reflections at the end of each day. I wasn't recording heroic exploits or monumental achievements. Rather, I was noting the little sparks of joy, the soft echoes of pain, and the subtle ways in which I grew and adapted over time. And you know what? That process turned out to be a gentle mirror, reflecting back the truth that life isn't measured solely by those thunderous, unforgettable moments. Often, it's measured by how we learn to live with the softer, quieter parts of ourselves, the parts that maybe, at first, seem so fragile and insignificant. I started to see my own story as a patchwork quilt of moments, each one tenderly sewn into the fabric of my being. There were days that shone like polished gemstones, and others that were as unassuming as a faded photograph tucked away in a drawer. Yet, every piece was essential. When I think back, there was another time, a winter long ago, when I felt utterly lost amidst the chill of life's demands. I had weathered a storm of disappointments, and for a time, the cold of uncertainty seemed to settle right in my bones. One particularly frosty evening, as I walked along a quiet street adorned with the soft glow of streetlights, I paused to warm my hands on the chilly railing of a bridge. It was then that an old friend, by sheer coincidence, stopped to chat. We walked side by side, our voices low and reflective, sharing stories of old and pondering over the days that had slipped away too quickly. That conversation stayed with me. It wasn't filled with grand advice or high-flying rhetoric. It was simply honest, straightforward talk, an exchange between two souls who knew that the true measure of a life is often hidden in its plain, unvarnished moments. I realized, as we wandered under a sky scattered with stars, that the very act of sharing our vulnerabilities made them lighter. Our smallness, with all its doubts and quiet resilience, was something we carried together, weaving a bond that made the world seem a little less vast and the night not so dark. So here I am now, talking to you, my dear, as we both journey through our own quiet passages of life. I want you to know that it's perfectly fine to feel a little small at times. It's a natural part of being human. Every day, as you engage with the world and with your own thoughts, remember that your experiences, each reflective pause, each soft exchange, are the building blocks of who you are. They are your stories, your memories, your lessons. And it's in the weaving of these moments that you find not just your strength, but a unique kind of wisdom, a gentle, reassuring knowledge that you matter in ways that cannot always be measured by grandeur, but rather by the quiet impact you leave on the hearts of those around you. Take a moment now to reflect on your own day, on those simple details that often go unacknowledged. Perhaps it's the sound of your footsteps on familiar pavement, or the subtle way light plays on the surface of your belongings. Maybe it's the warmth of a shared laugh, or the soft resolve that followed a challenging moment. Embrace these nuances, for they are the silent milestones of your life's journey, each one as important and valued as the next, stitching together a story that is all your own. In sharing my story with you, I hope you see that feeling small is not a deficit, but an invitation, a quiet call to observe, reflect, and ultimately to connect with the tender beauty of your own existence. Let each day remind you that no matter how modest your steps may appear, they are your own, and they lead you steadily along a path that, in its simple honesty, is profoundly meaningful. You know, as we come to the end of this little journey together, I can't help but feel a gentle warmth, We've shared some quiet reflections, haven't we? And before you go on with your day, or your week, or perhaps even a brand new year, take a moment to let these thoughts settle softly around you. Remember, the small moments, the daily little sparks of wonder, carry a magic of their own. I've seen it in my own lifetime and again. It's in the way the morning light tips over the sill, or how the sound of your own footsteps becomes a familiar friend on a quiet afternoon. I like to think back on those days when even a shared smile had the power to transform a heavy heart. I remember one day when the sky was a clear blue and the air tasted of promise, almost as if the world was softly nudging me to notice the little details. I was on my usual walk when I caught sight of an elderly couple sitting together on a park bench. They weren't talking much, but there was a comfort in their silence, an unspoken understanding that every quiet second mattered. It wasn't a grand, noisy scene, but it spoke volumes about the beauty of simply being. That memory always reminds me that even when life seems modest, it's brimming with moments that are deeply personal and full of meaning. Now, think about your own path. What has your day whispered to you? Was it a fleeting moment of laughter during breakfast, a gentle conversation with a friend, or the way the sunset transformed the mundane into something quietly extraordinary? Maybe you've started noticing how the routine, the warm cup of tea, the rustle of the newspaper, or even just the way your thoughts wander, holds a secret richness that often escapes the rush of our busy lives. There's a lightness in knowing that each day, each week, each month carries a subtle narrative of its own. I used to worry a lot about making a big mark, to have moments that everyone remembered. But over time, I learned that the world doesn't need us to be giants. It only asks for us to be genuine. And in our honesty, in every small act of kindness and every whisper of vulnerability, we contribute to a larger mosaic of shared humanity. Think of it this way. If every soft moment were a note, your life is a gentle melody that plays over the quiet hum of existence, a melody that stays with those who take a moment to truly listen. So, as you go about your evenings now, or whenever your day winds down, I invite you to pause a while longer. Notice that familiar quiet. Let it remind you that while you might sometimes feel small, you are part of a vast, interconnected story. Each reflective moment, whether it's looking at your reflection in a dimly lit mirror or simply sitting with your thoughts on a calm night, is a building block of a story worth telling. Your story is made up of these unassuming chapters, each a testament to resilience, honesty, and the subtle beauty of simply being here. And that, my dear, is what I'd like you to carry with you. A quiet confidence that every little moment, no matter how modest, contributes to the beauty of your journey. Life might often whisper rather than shout, and in its soft voice, it offers you the chance to understand that being small is not a limitation, but rather a gentle reminder that you're perfectly in tune with the world around you. So next time you feel that soft tug of insignificance, take it as a sign, a nudge from life encouraging you to look a little closer at the everyday wonders you pass by. Embrace the tender moments of reflection that make up your day, and remember that you are, in every delicate instance, making a difference in ways that might not immediately be seen. Your quiet presence, your authentic self, adds up to something remarkable. Take a deep breath now, my dear, and let that sensation of peaceful smallness fill you with a sense of calm purpose. Know that whether it's a sunny morning or a reflective evening, every moment you live, every small step you take is exactly as it should be, a part of a truly beautiful, ever-unfolding narrative. And in that narrative, your gentle spirit, soft as it might seem at times, shines ever so brightly. And maybe that's the quiet gift of feeling small. It reminds you, you were never meant to hold the whole world in your hands. You were only ever asked to hold your little corner of it, to notice the simple things, to care in the quiet ways, to love without needing to be seen. I suppose that's what I'd want you to carry with you long after this moment ends. Not a lesson, not advice. Just a gentle reminder from someone who's lived enough days to know you don't have to be extraordinary to matter. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to fill every room to belong. It's enough to be here, breathing, noticing, caring, even if no one else sees it but you. Sometimes, being small is not a problem to fix. It's a gift to receive. So, take your time. Be small, be quiet, be gentle, and know, in this big, busy, rushing world, there's still beauty in your quiet life. And I, for one, am so very glad you're here. That's all, my dear. Rest well tonight. You've done enough. You are enough. Always have been and always will be. Come sit down, my dear, and let me share something from my heart. You know, there comes a time in life when everything, the quiet moments, the unspoken words, the subtle expectations of others, begins to feel heavier than you ever imagined. Today, I want to talk to you about that weight of quiet expectations. You see, life isn't simply about the grand adventures or the loud celebrations. Sometimes it's the soft, almost imperceptible whispers of what others expect that seep into every part of our being. These are not the roaring demands of an angry crowd, but the silent, steady murmurings that come from family, friends, and even society at large. They wrap around you like a comforting blanket on a cold night, but over time, that blanket starts to feel like a weight pressing down on your very soul. I remember a time, not too long ago, when I looked around and felt that same quiet burden. It wasn't something I could point to, like a clear set of rules that everyone had agreed upon. It was more like an invisible ledger with lines and margins that kept growing with each passing day. And as I sat there, watching the sun dip low on the horizon, I began to wonder, why does it feel so hard to be just me? What is it about living in this world that asks so much from us without ever saying it outright? Now, my dear, you might think that these expectations are part of growing up, that as soon as you step into adult life, you're suddenly expected to have everything figured out. But nothing could be further from the truth. There's a peculiar way that the world communicates its wishes. It doesn't hand you a manual with neat instructions. Instead, it offers you subtle hints, a raised eyebrow, a quiet nod, a look of pride or concern. You pick up these signals like echoes in a vast, empty room, and soon enough, you start to believe that you must live up to these silent standards. Some days, the pressure can feel almost unbearable. There are moments when you lie awake in the dark, your mind tangled with doubts. Am I enough? Do I meet the mark? And that anxiety, so soft yet so persistent, becomes part of your everyday rhythm. It's like a song that plays softly in the background, one that you can't quite turn off no matter how hard you try. But here's something I want you to understand, kid. The very fact that you're feeling this isn't a sign of failure. No, it's a natural part of the human journey. As I grew older, I started to see that these expectations, though often unspoken, are deeply woven into the fabric of our existence. They come from every corner of our lives, from the gentle hopes of your parents to the quiet dreams of your friends, from the expectations laid out by the community to the subtle demands of the workplace. They form a tapestry that can both comfort and confine us. At times, it feels like the universe is gently nudging you in a direction, whispering, "This is the path you're meant to walk." And then other times, the pressure mounts, and you wonder if you're ever going to be able to step off that path without letting someone down. You see, my dear, there's a beauty in these expectations as well. They are a testament to the love and hope that others place in you. They remind you that you're not alone, that many believe in the person you could be. But the flip side of that is the quiet risk. When the pressure builds too high, it can steal away the simple joys of just being who you are. And if you let it, you might find yourself living not for your own dreams, but for a reflection of someone else's hopes and aspirations. Now, I won't pretend that I have all the answers. Life is messy and intricate. There were days when I, too, felt overwhelmed by these silent demands. I remember sitting by the window on a cool autumn day, watching the leaves fall, and feeling as if each fallen leaf was a little dream slipping away. Dreams of carefree moments, of unburdened days. And in that quiet silence, I began to see that maybe, just maybe, the answer wasn't to fight these expectations head on, but to understand them, to let them remind me of what truly mattered. Have you ever wondered, kid, why sometimes the hardest battles are not fought on the grand stages of life, but in the quiet corners of our hearts? It's in those moments that you find yourself standing alone with your thoughts, questioning every step you've taken. And I want you to know that it's perfectly fine to be vulnerable. In fact, it's in that vulnerability that true strength is forged. It's where you learn that the heaviest burdens are not meant to break you, but to teach you the art of carrying them with grace. We will talk about vulnerability more in the next episode. So, it may help to think of these expectations as the delicate threads of a spider's web. Each thread holds a part of the whole, invisible yet essential. Some threads are spun out of love and admiration, while others might be woven from misunderstanding or even fear. And as you walk the path of life, you learn to discern which threads will support you and which ones may need to be cut loose. This is not an easy lesson, my dear, but it is one of the most important you'll ever learn. Let me share with you a little memory. When I was young and full of dreams, I felt every expectation as a weight that I needed to prove myself against. I felt as if I had to stand on a pedestal, each step measured against an invisible ruler. But as the years went by, I began to understand that the most meaningful parts of life are not measured in achievements or milestones, but in the moments of quiet reflection. It was during a long, solitary drive on a rain-slicked road that I realized something profound. The quiet expectations around us, while they might define a part of our journey, do not determine who we truly are. There comes a moment, kid, when you realize that life's true treasures lie not in the approvals of others, but in the acceptance of your own heart. It's in those silent pockets of time when you're alone with your thoughts that you can rediscover the child within, the part of you that was once full of wonder and curiosity, unburdened by the weight of the world's judgments. Even when the world speaks in hushed tones of what you should be, remember that your real worth is not defined by those quiet expectations. Every day, we wake up and face the legacy of our past, the hopes our elders placed in us, the dreams we once held dear, and we stitch them together into the fabric of our everyday lives. And sometimes, that fabric feels a little too tight, as if every expectation is a seam pulling us in different directions. Yet, with each passing day, we learn to sew our own patterns, to make space for imperfections, and to allow our true selves to shine through. It's a slow process, my dear, like a garden that requires care and patience. The seeds of your true self may be hidden beneath the layers of what others expect, but with time, you can coax them to bloom. I won't lie and say there isn't pain in this journey. There are days when the invisible weight feels like a solid load, and you struggle to keep your eyes open. But know this, every challenge, every moment of quiet despair is also an opportunity, a chance to learn, to grow, to understand who you are beyond the expectations placed upon you. Embrace those moments, even when they are tough, for they are the stepping stones that lead you to a deeper understanding of life. There is a tender resilience in you, kid, a quiet bravery that has carried you through more than you can imagine. Think of the moments when you felt most truly yourself, when the world's expectations fell away like the mist at dawn. Those were the times when you were living purely in the moment, when the weight of all those silent judgments was lifted, if only for a little while. Those moments are precious, and they remind us that no matter how heavy the burden of expectations becomes, there is always room within us for freedom, for joy, and for genuine connection. It's important to remember that while we all carry our own burdens, we are also part of a greater family, a community woven together by shared hopes and struggles. The quiet expectations we experience are not meant to isolate us, but to connect us in a common human story. Every person you meet is carrying their own set of silent expectations, their own quiet battles, and their own unspoken dreams. And in recognizing that, you can find a certain comfort. You are not alone, my dear. In every smile, in every gentle nod, there is a shared understanding of the silent weight we all bear. So, when you feel that familiar pressure building inside, when you sense that the weight of quiet expectations is too much to bear, take a moment just for yourself. Breathe deeply and remember that your journey is uniquely yours. It's okay to feel the weight, to acknowledge it, and even to question it. For it is in these moments of honest reflection that you begin to discover the strength to redefine what these expectations mean to you. There is beauty in the struggle, kid, and wisdom in the quiet moments that follow. The path of life is never a straight line. It twists and turns, sometimes leading you into shadows where doubts grow thick, and other times opening up to clear skies filled with the promise of hope. Embrace all of it, the light, the dark, and the quiet in between, and you will find that every step, every silent expectation has helped shape the remarkable person you are becoming. I hope you carry these thoughts with you, my dear, as you walk your own path. Cherish the moments when life feels light and free, and don't be afraid to question the weight when it gets too heavy. For in the balance between expectation and self-truth, you will find the art of living gracefully, a lesson that has taken me many years to learn, and one that I gladly pass on to you. Remember, my little one, that life is an unfolding story, a story where every day is a new chapter, every quiet moment an opportunity, and every expectation, no matter how heavy, is just another part of the beautiful tapestry of our existence. Let your heart be your guide, even when the world whispers its quiet demands. And never forget that you are loved exactly as you are. Now, as you sit here with these thoughts in your mind, I invite you to reflect on the beauty of your own journey. There is no rush, no checklist to complete, just the gentle unfolding of days and the steady discovery of who you truly are. And that, my dear, is a lesson worth more than any burden of expectation. You know, my dear, life has a way of layering expectations upon us. And sometimes these aren't just the gentle, familiar ones we've already spoken of. They're the bigger ones that society whispers about when you least expect it. Think of marriage, for instance. Ever since you were a young child, there's been this quiet notion that someday you'd find a partner, settle down, and build a life together. It's as if the world has drawn a neat little blueprint in the background. A cozy home, shared secrets at the kitchen table, and the promise of a lifelong bond. Yet, the truth is far more complex. Marriage, with all its beauty and promise, also arrives wrapped in expectations that can sometimes feel overwhelming. There's the pressure to be perfect, to be the caring partner, to never let disputes linger, and to sacrifice a little of yourself for the sake of harmony. And when you do get married, questions often arise without a word being spoken. Is this enough? Are you happy? Does this marriage measure up? I remember the days when I first met your grandmother. There wasn't a plan on how things should be, no structured roadmap about how our life was supposed to unfold. Yet, even then, there were subtle glances and unuttered hopes among family and friends, a quiet backdrop of expectations that perhaps we would someday share more than just moments, but a lifetime together. And while those expectations sometimes felt like invisible chains tying you to an ideal, they were also part of the tender hope that someone out there believed in the promise of lasting love. But let me tell you, kid, that promise isn't handed out as a guarantee, and no two marriages carry the same weight or offer the same kind of warmth. Then, as life moves on, you begin to hear more whispers about having children. Every family gathering, every friendly chat over a cup of tea seems to carry a subtle reminder. One day, you too will be a parent. It's a delicate expectation, one that comes loaded with dreams of laughter echoing through hallways, of little hands holding on to yours, and of a legacy that stretches beyond your own days. But with that dream also comes the daunting reality. Raising a child is not always as straightforward as the tales in storybooks. There's a tenderness to it, yes, but there's also the genuine fear of not living up to the ideal of a perfect parent. How do you manage the sleepless nights, the constant worry, and the bittersweet moments of letting go? It's a question that lingers silently, even as you're told that children are your greatest joy. Now, let's talk about the economy and success, a duo that seems to parade around in every conversation in today's world. I've seen generations come and go, each burdened with its own unique set of challenges. Growing up, many believed that success was measured by how well you could provide, how stable your job was, and whether you could secure a piece of property or a car. But these expectations, my dear, can sometimes be as shifting as sands in a storm. In the warm glow of youth, the idea of success appears so clear-cut, a neat path lined with promises of upward mobility and recognition. However, as you grow older, you begin to realize that the world isn't always fair in its rewards. Challenges hit like unexpected rains that wash away carefully laid plans. There's an unspoken pressure to succeed, to climb that ever-towering ladder of achievement, whether it's in your career, in finances, or in social standing. It's the weight of countless eyes looking at you, even when you're alone in the quiet of your own thoughts. Are you doing enough? Is your work making a difference? How will you contribute to the family's legacy? These questions may never be loudly asked, yet they tug at your heart, demanding that you measure up to some ideal that seems just within reach, but never quite attained. I've watched many bright souls journey through these pressures. Some find solace in the balance between ambition and contentment. Others struggle under the persistent hum of societal benchmarks. A steady income, a neat house, and the appearance of having it all together. But success, my dear, is a far more nuanced concept than mere numbers on a paycheck or accolades displayed on a shelf. It's found in the quiet moments of self-realization, in the instances when you overcome a trial, no matter how small it may seem. It's in the gentle courage of admitting that sometimes, despite all of our efforts, life simply unfolds in its own mysterious ways. And then there are those expectations that come from the very fabric of our day-to-day interactions. Whether it's the expectation to be always cheerful, always strong, or always ready to lend a hand, these demands can sometimes weigh on you like a heavy coat on a warm summer night. Sometimes you're expected to have everything figured out, even when your heart and mind are echoing with uncertainties. Society loves its quiet checklists: graduate, marry, buy a home, have children, climb the career ladder. But there's little room in those checklists for the messy, unpredictable beauty of being human. For each step, there's an unspoken question. Are you fulfilling your role in the grand plan? It's not that these milestones themselves are wrong. It's that the path to them is rarely a straight line. I've seen friends and even family members try to force themselves into these boxes, thinking that if they just follow the script, life will be kinder. Yet, my dear, the truest version of happiness is often found when we dare to wander away from the expected path. It's a quiet rebellion, a gentle nod to your own dreams and desires. Perhaps you want a career that isn't conventional or a lifestyle that defies the neat checklists of society. It might seem daunting, almost like going against the tide of a long-held belief. But remember, every generation has had to find its own way through the labyrinth of expectations. Take the economy, for example. In times past, a steady job with a regular paycheck was the ultimate sign of success. Today, the landscape has changed, and many find themselves searching for meaning in a world that constantly shifts beneath their feet. The metrics of success evolve. The person who once followed a safe, predictable path might discover that taking risks, even in the face of uncertain financial winds, can lead to a richer life experience. There's wisdom in accepting that not every expectation is a decree. Some are simply suggestions, a gentle way for society to nudge you toward shared experiences. And if your journey diverges from that norm, so be it. The beauty of life is not in conformity, but in the vibrant tapestry woven from each individual's unique threads. I've come to learn that sometimes the expectations we carry are less about dictating our worth and more about the hopes that others have built around us. Your family, your friends, even the world at large might envision you as a beacon of stability, a partner, a parent, a pillar of success. And while that can be affirming, it can also burden you with a need to live up to a role that wasn't necessarily chosen by your own heart. It's like being handed an old suit that doesn't quite fit, yet everyone around you insists that it's the right attire for the occasion. Over time, you learn that the true measure of a person isn't in the suit they wear or the milestones they achieve, but in the quiet moments when they allow themselves to be imperfectly, beautifully human. So, my dear, as you wander through life's winding corridors, remember that these expectations, whether they're about marriage, children, success, or the many small victories that society deems important, shouldn't define the entirety of who you are. Instead, view them as a collection of gentle suggestions, each with its own story and its own weight, but not the sum total of your being. If you ever feel burdened by these expectations, take a moment to breathe and step back. Recognize that it's perfectly all right to choose a path that isn't the easiest or the most conventional. Your worth isn't measured by a neat list of accomplishments or by adhering to a rigid script. It's found in the resilience of your spirit, the warmth of your kindness, and the sincere dedication you give to the things that truly matter: love, joy, and the quiet moments that make up a life lived fully. Marriage may bring the joy of companionship, yet it also calls for vulnerability, a willingness to share your deepest self. Children might fill your days with laughter and wonder, but they also demand a patience and a sacrifice that can seem endless. Success might promise a sense of security, yet it sometimes comes at the cost of the simple pleasures that cannot be bought or measured. And the pursuit of success itself, a word that often hides more than it reveals, can morph into a relentless quest for approval, a race where the finish line keeps moving further away as you draw near. The key, my dear, is to find your balance amidst these quiet expectations. Acknowledge them, perhaps even appreciate the love and hope behind them, but don't allow them to smother the unique glow of your own desires. There is a world of difference between honoring the wisdom passed down to you and being chained by the very ideas that were meant to guide you. Life, in all its twists and turns, is rarely as black and white as the expectations laid out before you. It thrives in the delicate shades of gray, in the spaces between what is expected and what is felt deeply in your heart. It's okay to question, to wonder if the life mapped out by others is truly the life you wish to lead. Sometimes, sitting with that doubt, letting it stir your thoughts, is the first step towards discovering your own path. No one can dictate the worth of your dreams or the shape of your journey. There will always be murmurs about what should be, the steady drumbeat of tradition and the soft persuasion of society. Yet, it's you who must decide which of these voices to heed and which to let fade into the background. My dear, if ever you find yourself caught between the gentle call of expectations and the deeper yearning of your own heart, remember this: even the quietest rebellion against what's expected can lead to a life that is rich and full. In your decisions, be guided by the tenderness of your own truth. Celebrate the small victories, honor the moments of authenticity, and let every day be a gentle reminder that your story is uniquely your own. In this intricate dance between what is expected and what you choose to become, know that there's no need to rush. Life's journey unfolds at its own pace. It's not a race to be run or a clock to be beaten. It's a tender, winding path where every step, every decision contributes to the mosaic of who you are. Hold on to your dreams, no matter how they might differ from the whisperings of conventional wisdom. For in the end, it's the courageous few who dare to live not by the measure of expectations, but by the depth of their own inner light. So, my dear, as you continue along your journey, remember this: the quiet expectations of marriage, children, success, and so much more are but one chapter in a grand unfolding narrative. Embrace them if they bring you warmth and inspiration, but never let them eclipse the unique, brilliant story that is yours alone. Trust your own heart and know that even when the world speaks in soft, unyielding tones of what should be, your truth will always be the most powerful guide on your path. You know, my dear, sometimes it feels like you're standing at a crossroads while the world around you is racing along in a way that leaves you wondering if you're even on the right path. I've seen your friends and colleagues step into roles and embrace successes that seem to shine like bright stars in the night sky. You might glance around and feel a tug at your heart, a gentle nudge that whispers, "Shouldn't I be there too?" But remember, every single one of us is given a different map when we start out in life. Each journey is colored by unique circumstances, a mix of chance moments and advantages that aren't always visible to the eye. When I was younger, I often compared myself to those who appeared to have it all figured out. There was a time when I would hear about a dear friend landing a dream job or making a breakthrough that everyone celebrated. It wasn't so much about what they had acquired as it was about the shine of recognition that they carried. I'd sit for a long while thinking, what did I miss? Why am I still waiting for that moment? And in those silent hours, the weight of expectations, though never fully spoken, can press down with a curious heaviness that's hard to shake. But let's take a step back together, my dear, and look at it with a bit more tenderness. Not everyone starts the same race, and the finish lines aren't drawn by the same person. Some friends had advantages bestowed upon them: a family tradition, a well-trodden network, opportunities that came like gifts wrapped in convenience. Their journey might have had shortcuts or smoother trails, and while it may seem unfair at times, it's simply a reflection of how life's deck is shuffled differently for each one of us. You see, it isn't about tallying up wins and losses or measuring your progress by the glowing successes of others. It's about recognizing that each step you take is your own, molded not by comparing yourself to someone else's timeline, but by listening to your own inner voice. There's a quiet bravery in accepting that your path might meander a bit longer, that it may twist in unexpected ways that do not fit the mold of what others expect, and that's perfectly all right. There were moments in my own life when the pressure to keep pace with those around me felt like a race against time. I remember watching friends move steadily from one chapter to the next, finding love, building families, reaching professional milestones, while I felt as though I was learning to walk before I could run. The bench of comparison can be a hard place to sit, and the whispers of, "You should be there by now," can echo louder than the truths in your own heart. I'd often find myself in quiet corners of reflection, wondering why success seemed to be a moving target. In those moments, I discovered something very important, my dear. The secret of life is not hidden in the achievements of others, but in the courage to stay true to your own dreams. Each person's journey is shaped by a constellation of experiences, some blessings, some trials, and it doesn't always happen on the same schedule. Remember, the tender triumphs in your own life are measured in moments of quiet perseverance, in the gentle determination to keep moving forward even when you're not in the spotlight. You might recall a time when you felt disheartened because you weren't living the life that was painted as the norm. It's natural to feel that way. We all have moments when the path ahead seems obscured by doubt and worry. But take heart in knowing that life isn't a contest of who gets to reach the destination first. It is, instead, a wonderful mosaic of individual experiences, each shaped by personal dreams and the little blessings that only reveal themselves over time. Now, my dear, let's talk about that sense of pressure that sometimes creeps in when you see others achieving milestones that feel unattainable. It might be the glow of success that feels so undeniable when a dear friend wins an award, or when someone you admire shares how they managed to turn life's challenges into stepping stones. In those moments, it's important to keep in mind that every tale has its own twists and turns. What you see on the surface is often the well-polished story, leaving many of the silent struggles tucked away in the background. There's a delicate truth in realizing that the accolades and achievements of others often come with their own silent burdens. The privileges they might have enjoyed, whether it be guidance from family, favorable circumstances, or just being at the right place at the right time, don't diminish the value of your own journey. Instead, they serve as a reminder that no one story is simple, and every triumph is built on a foundation that might not be visible at first glance. It's understandable that comparing your progress to those with seemingly smoother roads can sometimes stir up feelings of inadequacy. But, my dear, if there's one lesson I've learned over the years, It's that the timeline of your life is as unique as the stars in the sky. While someone else's journey may be marked by grand celebrations and visible milestones, yours is being written in a quiet, deliberate script. There's beauty in taking the time to explore every bend and valley of your own path, rather than racing towards a finish line defined by someone else's footsteps. I remember having long conversations on cool evenings when the world around me seemed to slow down just enough for me to catch a glimpse of what truly mattered. In these reflective moments, I'd recall that those who appear to have it all often carry their own unexpected sorrows and longings. It wasn't that their lives were free of struggle. They simply had found a way to mask the hardships behind smiles and successes. And in doing so, they sometimes set up an image that can make us overlook the quiet battles you yourself have courageously fought. Instead of measuring your worth against these external markers, my dear, I encourage you to celebrate every small victory that illuminates your path. Whether it's finding a moment of clarity in the midst of a long day, or simply choosing to be kind to yourself when the world feels heavy, these are the true signs of living a life that is authentically yours. The things we treasure most, our personal growth, the relationships that gently nourish our soul, the quiet strength we develop in the face of uncertainty, are not things that can be captured in a simple list or a fleeting glance. It helps to remember that life is not a perfectly orchestrated symphony where every note fits into a precise order. Rather, it's a collection of moments, each one interwoven with memories and experiences that define who you are. When you see someone else's bright horizon, don't let that dim the light of your own dawn. Instead, look within yourself and find the reservoir of courage that has carried you through every challenge so far. Understand that your journey is meant to unfold at its own pace, a pace that is neither rushed by the demands of the world nor delayed by comparisons to others. It's also important, my dear, to be aware of the many privileges that sometimes cushion another's path. Perhaps they had mentors who guided them when you felt alone, or resources that seemed to appear just when they needed them most. Those privileges don't diminish your path. They simply highlight that every life is intricately interwoven with circumstances beyond one's control. What matters most is the light you nurture in your heart, the resilience that grows when you choose to trust in your own journey. So, when that nagging feeling of falling behind or not fitting a certain mold creeps up on you, remember this: the race is not against your friends or anyone else, but rather against the doubts within yourself. And in that quiet race, every step forward, even if it seems small, brings you closer to the person you're meant to be. Look around and find comfort in the idea that everyone, even those who appear to have an easier time, has their own unique struggles hidden behind their smiles. My dear, in the end, the truest measure of your success lies not in ticking off the milestones that are expected, but in living a life that honors the person you are deep down. It's about cherishing the little moments when the world feels gentle and the soft glow of your inner light shines clear. So keep nurturing that light, even when the pressure to meet some external standard feels overwhelming. As you move forward, take time to reflect on your own blessings, The small, everyday moments that often go unnoticed. The shared laughter over a cup of tea. The comfort of a quiet evening spent in your own company. And those fleeting instances when the world seems to pause just for you. These moments are precious, and they are wholly yours. Every day, when you find yourself hesitating at the threshold of what you think you should be doing, remind yourself that your pace is perfect. Life isn't a contest of who reaches the destination first. It's a continuous process of growth and learning. Embrace the privilege of your own journey with all its imperfections, knowing that every detour and delay has its own hidden blessing. And as you learn to honor your own timeline, you'll find that the pressure to match someone else's success begins to ease, replaced by a quiet confidence in the path you're carving out for yourself. So, my dear, let this be a gentle reminder from your old grandpa. Life's pressures and expectations are not chains meant to confine you. They are, rather, the echoes of hopes and dreams, sometimes from others, sometimes even from within, that signal you are capable of more than you can imagine. Keep your heart open, your spirit resilient, and trust that every moment, every quiet victory is a step towards a richer, more authentic life. You know, my dear, as the days turn into years, I've come to see that life often offers us moments of quiet revelation amidst all the pressure. There are times when you wake in the early hours of the morning, before the world stirs, and your mind wanders into those soft, reflective spaces where the weight of expectation feels almost tangible. It's in these moments that you might ask yourself, who am I beyond all these voices that seem to echo around me? And it's a question that doesn't have an answer written down in any rule book. It's something you slowly uncover, like a forgotten melody resurfacing from the past. I remember sitting on the old porch on a crisp morning, the dew still clinging to the grass, when I realized that the journey toward understanding yourself is as winding as a country road. You see, the world often tells us what we should become: a partner, a provider, someone who ticks all the boxes of success. But what it rarely tells you is that the truest treasure is discovering the unique light that burns quietly inside you. It might be hidden beneath layers of comparisons and well-meaning expectations, but it's there, waiting patiently for you to nurture it. There's a subtle art to letting that inner light shine, even when the noise of the world makes you feel small or out of step. Now, I want to talk a little about the whispers that sometimes come from your peers, the gentle, persistent reminders that you should perhaps be where they are. You see, some of your friends appear to glide effortlessly through life, their achievements seeming to come so naturally. They land one opportunity after another, their paths well paved by advantages that may have been handed to them before they even knew what those advantages were. I've noticed that, and I've felt it too. The quiet ache of wondering if you missed a step or if the cards were simply dealt differently. But here's something I learned long ago, my dear. Every journey is as personal as a fingerprint. It's important to understand that behind every shining success story, there's a mosaic of moments that can never be seen by the outside world. The smiles you see might be born of victories, but they're often seasoned with struggles and silent battles. And while it's easy to compare your path to theirs, remember that each of you carries different gifts, faces different storms, and follows a timeline that only you truly understand. Some are blessed with a head start, resources and opportunities that illuminate their way, while others, like you, might need a bit more time to gather the courage to move forward at your own pace. And that's perfectly all right. I recall a time when I felt the pressure of walking beside those I admired. Their steps seemed so sure, their directions so clear, and I couldn't help but feel that I was left fumbling in the dark. But then I learned that comparing yourself to the brightness of another star can sometimes dim the unique glow of your own. There's a quiet power in embracing your own unfolding story, even if it takes a slower, less predictable path. That very slowness, as frustrating as it might seem at times, allows you to notice the nuances, the subtle details of life that often go unnoticed in the rush of achievements. There were days when I'd watch acquaintances receive accolades, moving through life as if each day were a celebration. And I'd feel that tug, that gentle pressure that suggested I too should be part of the parade. But as I took my time, I discovered that the moments of true fulfillment are not found in the loud applause of public triumphs, but in the quiet satisfaction of personal growth. Whether it's learning to laugh at your own missteps, feeling a deep gratitude for small kindnesses, or simply sitting in silence with your own thoughts, these are the moments that truly shape who you are. It can be hard, my dear, when the world around you seems to parade successes like trophies in a window display. You might feel a certain envy, a yearning to break free from that unspoken contest. But rather than seeing it as a race, try to imagine life as a long, meandering walk through a scenic garden. Each step is significant. Every detour holds a secret bloom, and the pace isn't dictated by someone else's footsteps. It's all about embracing the journey, with its pauses and its bursts of energy, its moments of clarity, and the times when uncertainty lingers like a soft fog. Sometimes you may worry that taking a different pace means you're falling behind. But what you may not realize is that those who seem to zoom ahead are not necessarily living in tune with the deeper rhythms of their heart. In chasing after what appears to be the ultimate version of success, they might lose sight of the quiet joys that come from living with genuine intention. Meanwhile, every step you take, however tentative, is building a foundation that is uniquely yours. And in that foundation is a resilience, a quiet, steadfast courage that doesn't rely on external applause, but is nourished by your own inner strength. There's also a dimension of understanding that comes with time, the realization that those who seem to have it all might have been given a few extra nudges along the way. Whether it's the steady support of loved ones who recognized opportunities for them or a series of fortunate turns that set their course, these advantages don't lessen your own worth. They're simply part of the varied tapestry of life. And as you gather your own experiences, remember that every hardship, every triumph, and every quiet lesson is adding to the rich mosaic that makes you who you are. I often think back to the many afternoons spent talking over a cup of tea when the conversation meandered from light-hearted memories to the deeper questions of identity and belonging. Those were the times when I realized that even in moments of apparent stillness, life was pulsing gently with potential. You see, my dear, your unique path has its own rhythm, a cadence that only you can follow. And while it may sometimes feel as if you're moving slower than the bright sparks around you, take comfort in knowing that every step is leading you toward the life you've been meant to live. There's a kind of solace in accepting that everyone's story is written in its own time. The chapters that others seem to finish quickly may simply be reflections of paths forged by different hands. Rather than viewing your own journey as a delay or a deviation, consider it an invitation to savor the moments that are just for you. The quiet mornings of introspection, the unexpected turns that challenge you, and the personal victories that don't make a grand announcement. They are the true markers of a life well lived. So, my dear, when you feel that familiar push, a reminder that you're not keeping up with the pace set by others, pause and breathe. Let yourself see that every heart has its own rhythm and every life its own tempo. When you measure your worth not by the milestones everyone else seems to reach, but by the depth of your own experiences and the courage with which you face each day, you begin to understand that you are exactly where you're meant to be. It's in these gentle pauses that you find the strength to continue, to appreciate that the journey isn't defined by the loud victories or the flashy accolades. Instead, it's defined by the quiet moments of resilience. When you pick yourself up after a fall, when you allow a smile despite the weight of expectations, and when you hold on to the belief that your own path, though different from what others might expect, is filled with its own kind of beauty. The world may keep showing you images of instant success and rapid triumphs, but remember, my dear, that growth is often slow and tender, a process that happens quietly, away from the spotlight. It is in the subtle shifts of your heart, in the patient accumulation of small wins, and in the conviction that your own pace holds its own truth. There is no need to rush. Let life unfold as it will, one heartfelt moment at a time. And in that unfolding, you'll come to see that true success isn't measured by the speed at which you climb, but by the depth of your own journey and the quiet wisdom you gather along the way. As you move forward, keep close the comfort that every step is a learning, every pause a blessing. Let each challenge serve as a reminder that your journey is uniquely yours, not a race against others. Let the soft murmur of expectations be just one voice among many, never the one that overshadows the gentle strength that grows with every sunrise and every thoughtful sigh. Hold on to the truth that in the vast tapestry of life, the threads that seem delayed or different in texture are sometimes the ones that create the most beautiful patterns over time. And so, my dear, take heart in knowing that the path you tread, marked by its own quiet milestones and personal triumphs, is a path of deep and enduring worth. Celebrate the victories, however modest they seem, and cherish the moments when you learn just a little bit more about yourself. For in the end, the richest measure of life isn't found in comparisons or the fleeting glow of success seen from afar. It's found in the steady, unassuming light that continues to shine within you, guiding you through every twist and turn, every challenge, and every quiet triumph. And so, my dear, as the twilight of each day gently folds over the hustle and bustle of expectations, remember that the richest gifts in life are found in those quiet moments of self-discovery. There are times when it seems as if the world's pace is unyielding, when the constant hum of what's supposed to be drowns out the soft murmur of your own heart. In these moments, take a deep breath and let yourself simply be. The world might be busy, but you have a story all your own. A story that unfolds in the whispers of early morning light and the gentle embrace of a quiet evening. I've seen so many souls rush along, chasing after signs of success and nods of approval, as if time were a relentless tide that waits for no one. Yet, the beauty of life isn't measured by how fast you run, but by the careful, deliberate steps you take along your unique path. Sometimes, you might feel the weight of unspoken measures, a subtle benchmark inherited from those who came before you or from peers who seem to have unlocked every door. But understand this, the landscape of your journey is painted with colors only you can perceive, and the triumphs that matter most are the ones that gently stir your heart. There will be days when doubts creep in, when the quiet pressure of comparisons and expectations seems too much to bear. Perhaps you watch others stepping into well-lit moments of celebration, each success glowing like a beacon in the night, and you wonder if you're moving too slowly, if you're missing some secret that eludes everyone else. In those times, it's important to look around and recognize the small wonders of your own life. A kind word shared over tea, a small victory that only you celebrate, or even a simple moment of genuine laughter echoing in the silence. These are the true milestones, the subtle notes in the symphony of your existence. Remember, too, that sometimes the advantages others seem to have are like hidden gifts, privileges or opportunities that were present long before you took your first step on your journey. Some roads come pre-lit by the glow of past guidance, while others require the slow, steady work of lighting your own candles. Do not let the shadow of another's fortune dim the light that burns quietly within you. Instead, let their glow remind you that every spark is born from its own unique source, and the fire of your spirit is fueled by the personal experiences, struggles, and small joys that are all your own. There are moments when the landscape of expectations may seem unyielding, when the paths defined by tradition and external approval feel like rigid tracks that don't accommodate the gentle meanderings of your heart. And it's in these moments that the slow, deliberate process of self-discovery becomes most precious. Every stumble, every pause, every time you choose to honor your own rhythm over the clamoring demands of comparison is a gentle rebellion, a quiet affirmation that your life's pace is perfectly your own. I've learned that the most meaningful victories are those found in the delicate interplay between ambition and acceptance. They are in the silent mornings when you catch a glimpse of who you are becoming, in the reflective evenings when your heart swells with quiet pride, even for a small step taken in the right direction. These are the moments that quietly accumulate into a legacy of authenticity, a treasure trove of personal wisdom that is far more enduring than any fleeting measure of success offered by the world. So, when you feel the pressure to keep pace with a parade of successes, or when the scale of expectation seems tipped against you, let yourself slow down. Wrap your arms around your own story and listen to the deep, steady beat of your heart. Trust that every moment, every challenge, every small victory is a brushstroke painting the masterpiece that is your life. The journey is long, winding through both shadow and light, and every path has its own tempo, its own secret unfolding. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, you'll start to feel it. That little flicker, that tiny glow inside, the beginning of your own answers shaped by your own hands. That's life, kid, and it's worth every step. Come sit with me for a spell, my dear. I've been thinking a lot about loss lately. You know, kid, life has a funny way of leaving us with empty seats and quiet rooms. Sometimes it's the gentle absence of someone we loved all our life, and sometimes it's the sudden, deep ache of a broken heart. I remember a time when the world felt so big, and then one day it all shrank to a single missing presence. And it's funny how loss always seems to paint our days with shadows. There was a time not so long ago when I sat under an old oak tree, watching the leaves fall one by one. I thought, hey, why does the end of something always feel like the end of the world? But then, as I listened to the wind, I heard a whisper that said, my dear, each falling leaf makes room for new growth. And that, kid, is one of life's most enduring lessons. Loss isn't just the end, it's a quiet invitation to start over, to rebuild, even if the process is slow and the pain lingers. You see, sometimes the person we've lost leaves behind more than memories. They leave a mark that shapes who we become. And yes, it might feel like our hearts have been splintered into pieces that will never quite fit together again. I ask you, why is it so hard to move on? Well, maybe because every time we let go of someone we loved, we let go of a part of ourselves. And that's a weight that lingers much longer than we'd ever wish. I recall evenings filled with memories of a dear friend whose laughter still echoes in my mind. Each memory was like a soft glow in the darkness, guiding me through nights when the silence was too loud. I often wondered, how do I carry on when each step forward feels like a betrayal to the past? But then I learned that healing isn't about replacing what was lost. It's about honoring it, about finding the strength to smile at the stories, even when your eyes well up with unshed tears. There's a peculiar way the heart mends itself. The process is slow, deliberate, and a bit messy. No grand event announces that the pain is over. It simply fades away, like the last echo of a song that once made you whole. I remember asking myself, why am I like this? As I struggled with the absence of someone who once lit up my life. And over time, the answer unfurled itself quietly, because love was real and loss was proof of a depth that only a full heart could carry. Loss, my dear, has a long shadow. It stretches out behind us, sometimes darkening our paths with memories too vivid to forget. But in that very shadow lies a reminder of what was meaningful, a testimony to every laugh, every tear, every quiet moment shared. When life leaves you with a void, don't be afraid to dwell in it for a while. Sit with it and let it tell you its story. Ask yourself the hard questions. What did this love teach me? How has it shaped who I am now? The answers might not be simple, but they're there, tucked away in the folds of your heart, waiting patiently to be discovered. I remember once when I lost someone I'd admired dearly. For days, the world seemed to continue in a monotonous rhythm, but inside me, there was a silence that was almost palpable. I'd find myself talking to the empty room, as if my lost love was somewhere among the familiar shadows. That conversation, as one-sided as it might have been, was my way of keeping the memories alive. And you know what, kid? It felt like a life lesson unfolding before my eyes. I learned that grief isn't something to run away from. It's a quiet companion that teaches us about resilience, about the worth of every moment we once took for granted. Every morning after, I would rise, not with the heavy weight of regret, but with a gentle determination to honor that love. I began to see beauty in the broken pieces of my heart. I learned that even when the person you love is no longer there in the way you'd wish, their impact continues to shape your days. Those moments of solitude became opportunities for reflection, an invitation to understand that grief and healing walk hand in hand. And in that understanding, I found a quiet kind of peace. Sometimes I'd catch myself in quiet corners of life asking, why am I still hurting? And with each passing day, I realized that the ache is not a curse, but a reminder that the heart has loved deeply. It is the tender footprint of existence, a sign that you once experienced something so meaningful that its absence leaves a lasting void. Yes, loss leaves a shadow that can seem overwhelming, but that same shadow is proof of a life richly felt. Now, kid, don't think that this reflective journey is meant to bring you down. No, it's meant to lift you up. It is the wisdom of time, handed down from one generation to the next, like a cherished family heirloom. You see, the process of healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about learning to live with it. It's like a slow dance with time, where each step, however tentative, helps rebuild the mosaic of your heart. There were days when the memory of loss felt like a constant companion, an ever-present echo in the corridors of my mind. I'd find solace in the small things, a gentle smile from a stranger, the sound of a familiar song, or the warmth of the sun on my face. Each of these moments reminded me that even in the midst of overwhelming loss, life still held beauty. And as you journey through your own experiences of loss, you might find that these little sparks of light, however small, are enough to guide you forward. My dear, understand that healing is not a race. There's no finish line, no set time when you're suddenly whole again. It's a gradual unfolding, a process of rediscovery. The love you lost is woven into every fiber of your being, and while it may sometimes feel like a burden, it's also a blessing. It means you were brave enough to love deeply and wholly. And isn't that worth more than any moment of pain? So, if you ever find your heart heavy with memories, remember that you're never alone in your sorrow. Every person at some point has faced that long shadow of loss. And though the road may seem lonely and uncertain, it is also filled with gentle lessons, quiet strength, and the soft, unyielding light of hope. Stay with your memories, learn from them, but do not let them anchor you in grief. For even in the quietest moments of loss, there is a promise that you are still here, still moving forward, and that one day the sun will shine a little brighter on the tapestry of your soul. Keep these words close, kid. In your moments of quiet despair, let them remind you that life is a delicate balance of love and loss, heartache and healing. And as you carry on, May you always find the courage to embrace the full spectrum of your feelings, knowing that every tear, every sigh, and every heartbeat is a part of the journey toward a richer, more compassionate life. There are times when I wonder if the depth of my sorrow was simply a measure of my capacity to love. If we lose someone dear, it is as though a part of us goes missing, leaving behind an echo that never fades entirely. But then I remember that every moment of sorrow is also a moment of gratitude, a deep, lingering thankfulness for having known such love in the first place. And that thought, my dear, brings its own kind of comfort. You may find yourself drifting back to memories like cherished photographs, frozen in time, yet forever vivid. Remember those days of endless sunshine and laughter? Those moments were your gift, a legacy of love that continues to shine even when the person who gave it to you is no longer near. And in that shining light, there lies the power to heal, slowly, gently, one small step at a time. I want you to know, kid, that it's all right to sit with your sorrow. Don't ever feel like you must force yourself to smile or rush the process of healing. Just be. Breathe in the memories, the sweet echoes of love, and allow them to remind you of the beauty that once was. The long shadow of loss may fall across your days, but within that shadow, there is also the promise of light, waiting patiently for the moment you're ready to step back into it. Remember, my dear, every story of loss is also a story of life. And though it may bend you, it will never break you if you let it. For every tear that falls is a silent hymn of gratitude, a tribute to the life that was and the resilience that must be carried forward. Embrace this journey even if it feels too heavy at times, and hold close the hope that in every ending there is a new beginning waiting to unfold. So, my dear, keep your heart open and let the quiet lessons of loss remind you of what it means to truly live. There is beauty in every farewell, and sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the whispers of what is no longer here. Trust in the slow, steady pulse of time, and know that every beat of your heart is a step toward healing, a step toward a life where, even in absence, love remains immortal. You know, kid, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I began to understand something very important. It wasn't that the pain of loss ever truly left me, but that over time, it started to change. It morphed into a quiet companion rather than an overwhelming burden. I'd sometimes catch my mind wandering to the tiny details, the way the light fell through the trees in the early morning, or the sound of laughter carried on a gentle breeze, and realize these were echoes of the love I'd known. These echoes, my dear, became the stitches that slowly mended my heart. There were mornings when the sky was painted in soft hues of pink and orange, moments when I felt the warmth of the sun on my face, and for a brief, fleeting instant, all of my sorrow seemed to lift. I'd sit there, soaking in the tranquility, wondering, is this what healing feels like? And I'd answer myself with the quiet certainty that yes, it is a gradual opening up to the beauty that life still offers. Even when loss casts its long shadow, there exists in every small moment a spark of hope, a reminder that life is resilient. I remember sitting in my favorite chair by the window, the one that had seen many sunsets and shared whispered secrets of the past. I'd gaze out at the garden the flowers nodding gently in the breeze, and think of how every petal, every leaf had once danced in the light of someone I loved. It made me realize that in every ending, there's a hint of a beginning. The vibrant colors of a garden were nature's way of showing me that even after the harshest winter, life finds a way to bloom again. And isn't that a lesson worth treasuring, kid? There's an old saying that goes, "Time heals all wounds." But I've learned that time doesn't so much erase as it transforms. The raw, aching sorrow may never disappear entirely, but it softens, like a stone smoothed by the gentle caress of a river. Each day, when you wake up with the lingering memory of loss, remember that you're not being diminished by your grief. Rather, you're being slowly reshaped into someone with more depth and empathy than before. Think of it this way. Every tear you shed is a small tribute to the love that once lit up your world, and that love will forever be a part of you. Sometimes, on a quiet evening, I'd find myself talking aloud, as if the walls could understand, sharing bits of wisdom and soft humor with the empty room. I'd say, "You know, dear, grief is a curious thing. It doesn't simply vanish at the stroke of midnight. It lingers around, mingling with our memories, our stories." And in those moments, I felt less alone. I realized that each of us carries our own private collection of losses, whispered secrets of the heart, and that by acknowledging them, by speaking their names, we honor the stories that have shaped us. For every memory of laughter and every echo of pain, there lies a lesson that teaches us how to love better, to live more fully. It's funny, kid, how sometimes the harshest lessons come wrapped in gentle moments. I recall a chilly autumn day when the wind rustled through the fallen leaves, each one crinkling like a tiny memory. I paused to listen, and in that sound, I heard not only the sorrow of what was lost, but also a promise of what was yet to come. It was as though the earth itself was whispering, "Keep moving, keep loving, no matter how heavy your heart feels." Those words, spoken without a voice, reminded me that even in the throes of grief, there's an inherent resilience in the human spirit, a quiet strength that pushes us forward even when every step feels like an uphill climb. I used to wonder, why does loving someone mean risking such immense sorrow? And over time, I came to see that the vulnerability of our hearts is what makes love so wonderfully powerful. Losing someone dear doesn't weaken you, it expands you. It teaches you that every moment is irreplaceable, that every smile shared is a treasure beyond measure. And though the absence of that person may cast a pall over your days, it also leaves behind a legacy of love, a beacon that continues to shine through even the darkest nights. There will be days, my dear, when the weight of these memories feels unbearable. On those days, sit quietly with your thoughts. Let them wander freely through the halls of your mind. Remind yourself that every laugh, every tear, every whisper of a memory is a part of you, like threads in a tapestry, weaving together a story uniquely yours. It's in these quiet moments of introspection that you learn to see the beauty of your own resilience, the way you've grown from each encounter with loss. Remember the evenings by the fire when the world outside was silent and it felt as if time itself had paused just to listen. In those moments, I found solace in the simple realization that it's okay to feel lost sometimes. That feeling lost, that deep sense of mourning, was not a sign of defeat, but a natural part of life's journey. It was proof that you cared, that you loved deeply. And while that love may leave behind an ache, it also leaves behind a profound capacity to feel joy when it finally finds its way back. Sometimes I'd look at old photographs, faded edges and all, and each image would tell a story of days filled with laughter and love. I'd see the sparkle in the eyes of those who had long since departed and feel a bittersweet warmth. They weren't gone. They were simply out of sight, yet forever present in the corners of my heart. And that, my dear, is how healing unfolds, not by erasing memories, but by weaving them into the very fabric of your existence, so that every smile carries a hint of past joys. I often tell myself, don't be too harsh on your heart, kid. It's okay to cherish the moments of pain as much as the moments of joy. Both have shaped you into the person you are today. It's in these reflections that I found a way to honor loss without being overwhelmed by it. I learned that you can hold on to the love that's gone, not as a chain that binds you, but as a gentle reminder of what it means to have a heart capable of feeling so profoundly. There will be times when you feel like retreating, like disappearing into yourself to escape the memories that sometimes come too close. But know this, isolation may seem like a safe haven, yet it's in connection with those who understand, with nature, with the quiet moments of your own reflection, where true healing begins. Reach out, even if it's just with a quiet nod to your own courage. Smile at the memory of that love, however painful it may be, because it signifies that you once experienced something beautiful and real. Imagine, my dear, the river that flows ever onward. It doesn't stop at rocks or branches. It finds its way around them, sometimes calmly, sometimes forcefully, but always moving forward. Your life is much like that river. The memories of loss may carve deep channels in your heart, but they also guide you, showing you where you've been and hinting at where you might go. In the end, it's not about forgetting the past, but about learning to navigate the present with grace and wisdom. There are moments, too, when you'll feel a surge of gratitude for having known the depth of love that once filled your life. It's strange, isn't it? How the very thing that makes you ache can also remind you of your strength, your capacity to love despite the risk of loss. This gratitude, however subtle, is a sign that your heart is learning its lessons. It teaches you that every moment of connection, no matter how brief, is worth the pain that might follow. Think back to the quiet evenings when the stars above shone like distant promises, twinkling gently as if to remind you that there is light even in the darkest times. In those moments, I'd whisper a quiet thank you to the universe for every laugh shared, every hug given, every silent moment of understanding. Those memories became a part of the gentle rhythm of my life, a rhythm that, despite the occasional dissonant note of sorrow, played on with a steady, enduring beat. And so, my dear, as you walk your own path, remember that every tear is a testament to a love well lived, every memory a quiet celebration of the connections that have touched your soul. Embrace your loss as you would an old friend, with tenderness, with care, and with an understanding that it has only deepened your capacity to feel. Know that in time, the ache will soften into a comforting presence, a gentle reminder that even in absence, love remains. Keep this close to your heart. Life is not measured solely by the moments of joy, but by the totality of experiences, the light and the dark, the laughter and the tears. Every fragment of love, every memory of loss contributes to the intricate mosaic of your being. And while it might seem as if the shadow of loss stretches endlessly before you, there is also a horizon filled with promise, waiting patiently for your next steps. So, whenever you find yourself overwhelmed by the silence or lost in the vast expanse of your memories, take a moment to breathe deeply. Let the rhythm of your heartbeat remind you that you are here, that you have a story worth telling. Speak softly to yourself, kid, with the same gentle understanding that you would offer a cherished friend. Even in the quietest moments, there is a chance to learn, to heal, and to grow. And as the days turn slowly into months, and the months into years, you'll see that the long shadow of loss is never a sign of defeat. It is merely a part of the landscape of your life, a part that, when met with kindness and courage, can help you find an even deeper appreciation for the beauty that remains. For every absence, there is a memory. For every silence, there is a lingering note of love that endures. Remember, my dear, that every beat of your heart echoes the laughter, the tears, and the whispered memories of those who have walked beside you. Their love, though no longer visible, still sparkles like dew on the early morning grass, a gentle reminder that life, with all its ups and downs, continues its tender, unyielding flow. Trust in this process. Allow yourself the space to grieve and know that in doing so, you honor the ones you've lost as well as the vibrant tapestry that is your life. Take these words with you, kid, and let them be your quiet guide when the weight of loss seems too heavy. For in every shared sorrow and every remembered smile, there is a lesson in resilience, in the power of love, and in the inexhaustible strength of the human spirit. And as you continue to navigate the winding path of life, remember that the long shadow of loss eventually gives way to a gentle, enduring light, one that shines as a testament to everything you have loved and all that you are yet to become. You know, my dear, there are times when the weight of your emotions can feel downright overwhelming, a storm that seems to come out of nowhere. It's in those moments when the floodgates of your heart burst open and every tear is a torrent that you might find yourself in the midst of an emotional breakdown. And it's okay to feel that way. It isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's a part of being human. Sometimes the pain of loss and the heaviness of memory strike so deep that even breathing seems like a chore. Now, I want you to listen carefully, kid. When you feel like the sadness is consuming you, or when the anxiety of grief makes it hard to see the path ahead, understand that this intense feeling is not something to simply push aside or pretend isn't there. It's a signal from your heart that something deep within you is reaching out for understanding. And in those moments, you might experience what doctors sometimes call an emotional breakdown, a kind of deep, all-encompassing sorrow that leaves you feeling numb and yet acutely aware of every ache in your chest. I've seen it myself in the quiet hours of the night when the world is still. I'd sit alone, the silence around me almost too loud, and wonder, why is this pain so heavy? Why is my heart breaking like this? And my dear, I learned that it's okay to question. It's okay to sit with that confusion, no matter how discomforting it feels. because an emotional breakdown, as frightening as it might be, is often the first step toward understanding the profound depths of our feelings. It's as if your inner self is trying to talk to you, telling you that there is more to learn about who you are and how much you can endure. When that heavy sadness grips you, remember that it's a complex process, a series of steps that aren't always easy to see. First, you may feel overwhelmed by a sense of numbness. It's like your emotions go on a brief vacation, leaving you feeling detached from the world. Then sometimes, that numbness is followed by bursts of uncontrollable tears that seem to flow without reason. And in between, there's that terrible gap where nothing makes sense, a time when your mind races through memories and the shadows of what once was. My dear, that gap is like a dark tunnel, and it's perfectly normal to feel lost within it. It's important to give yourself permission to experience this, not by forcing yourself to smile or by pretending that everything's all right, but by acknowledging quietly and honestly that you are hurting. You might even start questioning, am I strong enough to handle this? And I want you to know that strength isn't about putting on a brave face all the time. It's about feeling your pain, embracing the struggle, and still having the courage to keep moving forward, even if each step is heavy. It's that bittersweet paradox of love and loss. The more you truly feel, the more you risk the sting of sorrow. But that same depth of emotion is what later helps you understand that healing isn't linear or swift. It's a slow and sometimes painful process. Now, when you find yourself in the grip of an emotional breakdown, there are a few things you might try to help navigate the storm. It isn't about taking it too easy or ignoring the depth of your feelings. Rather, it's about being gentle with yourself while also not shying away from the true power of what you're experiencing. For instance, when the tears come, allow them to flow. There's no need to rush past them. Each tear is a silent testimony to the life you once shared, to the love that was and still remains deep inside of you, even if it feels out of reach at that moment. In that vulnerability, rather than feeling weak, consider it a sign of your immense capacity to feel and to remember. There are moments when you might feel like your mind is betraying you, when the memories come unbidden and the pain feels sharper than ever. These moments are part of what we sometimes call a full emotional breakdown. It might feel like a tidal wave of regret and sorrow crashing over you, and during those times, it's perfectly all right to reach out for support. Whether it's talking quietly with a friend who understands, or simply writing down your thoughts in a journal, sometimes putting your feelings into words can be a first small step out of the dark. Your feelings deserve acknowledgement. They are not problems to be solved swiftly, but deep rivers that must run their course. It might help, my dear, to try and give names to the many emotions swirling inside you. There's the raw, biting grief of loss. There's the smoldering anger at circumstances that feel unjust. There's the lingering sadness that blankets your days. And then there's the hopeful, timid spark of healing that sometimes struggles to break free. Each emotion has its place and its time. Recognize that when anger rises, it's not a sign of falling apart, but a natural outcry against the pain inflicted by loss. And when sorrow tightens its grip, remember that it's part of your story, a sign that you have loved deeply. Processing an emotional breakdown doesn't mean you have to rush into feeling better. Instead, it means accepting that healing is an ongoing journey with bumps and unexpected turns. There will be days when you feel almost whole, and then suddenly, a memory or a familiar scent might bring back the flood of earlier days. In those instances, understand that it's all right if you need to pause, if you need to take a breath, or if you need a moment to simply sit with your emotions rather than fight them. Sometimes, the process of healing can bring about another layer of anxiety, the fear that the sorrow might never fully subside. In those moments, I want you to remember, kid, that healing doesn't mean the pain completely disappears. Instead, it transforms. Just as a storm eventually gives way to a soft drizzle, the intense waves of grief will gradually become a gentle, persistent hum in the background of your life. And while that hum may always be there, it doesn't have to control your every step. There's an old saying that goes, "The brightest flame casts the darkest shadow." It might sound paradoxical, but it speaks to the idea that the more intensely you have loved and lost, the more profound your sorrow might seem. But within that darkness lies the very seed of a new dawn. When you accept that breakdowns are part of the grand design of healing, you also accept that they are not the end of your journey. They are chapters in your ongoing story of resilience. They are moments when the layers of your soul are being reshaped, sometimes painfully so, but ultimately to prepare you for a future where the echo of loss is woven with new threads of hope and understanding. Think of it like a piece of weathered wood that has been carved by time. The scars and grooves on that wood tell stories of past storms. And while those marks might seem like reminders of what was lost, they also show that the wood, much like your heart, has been strengthened by every trial it's faced. In each crack, there is a pathway for light to seep through, and even on days when that light seems dim, know that it's always there, waiting patiently for the moment when you're ready to let it in. When emotions run high and you feel as though you're on the edge of an abyss, remember that it's okay to seek small comforts. Maybe it's the warmth of a cup of tea on a cold morning, or the gentle rustle of leaves outside your window. These small tokens remind you that even in the midst of deep emotional breakdown, life continues, quietly, steadily. They serve as anchors that tether you to the present, allowing you to feel, if only for a moment, safe enough to navigate the turbulent seas within. My dear, it's crucial to allow yourself both the time and space to process your emotions fully. This isn't about forcing yourself to get over it by hard work or willpower alone. No, healing is a delicate balance between acknowledging your pain and allowing yourself to believe that the future holds more than just sorrow. It involves a slow, mindful progression, a kind of emotional alchemy, where the leaden weight of grief is gradually transformed into a gentler, more manageable form of remembrance. Keep in mind that it's perfectly acceptable to have days when you feel like you're taking 2 steps back for every step forward. Progress isn't measured by the absence of setbacks, but by the quiet determination to keep moving, no matter how slowly. And every tiny moment of self-compassion, every honest tear shed without judgment, is a victory, a sign that you are at your own pace, learning to navigate the labyrinth of your emotions. There might come a time when you wish someone would simply take away your pain to make it all vanish in a blink of an eye. But my dear, part of growing through loss is learning to make peace with the fact that some scars never fully fade. They just become less raw, less constant. And in that acceptance lies a profound strength. It's a strength that says, I have loved, I have lost, and yet here I am. It's not about erasing the past, but about carrying it forward as a cherished part of who you are. So if ever you feel that the sheer intensity of your emotions threatens to overwhelm you, remember that each moment of breakdown is also a moment of rebuilding. It is nature's way of inviting you to shed the old and, over time, to embrace a renewed version of yourself. Look within, my dear, at the spaces where the pain has carved its marks. In those places, you may eventually find resilience quietly waiting to blossom, like a tender bud emerging after a harsh winter. Take these words to heart, kid, as you tread your path through the darkest times. Learn to honor each phase of your emotional journey without judgment, understanding that both the breakdowns and the breakthroughs are essential parts of what it means to heal. There's no need to rush or to minimize your feelings. Your pain is valid and your journey is uniquely yours. In processing your emotions honestly, with a steadfast yet gentle heart, you find that healing, however gradual and winding it may be, becomes a testament to the infinite capacity of the human spirit to endure, to adapt, and ultimately to find beauty even in the midst of deep sorrow. You know, my dear, as we wander further down this winding path of loss and healing, there's another truth that I think is worth sharing. Beyond the aching emptiness, beyond the moments of sheer despair, there comes a gradual return, a slow, steady reawakening of the parts of you that were once dulled by sorrow. It's not an abrupt transformation, mind you, but a gentle unfolding. It's the kind of change that feels so real, so raw, that it reminds you that you're still breathing, still moving, even if each step requires a bit of courage. The process of healing is like tending to a garden after a long, bitter frost. The soil is cold and barren at first, and nothing seems to grow. Yet, with time and tender care, new sprouts begin to push through, fragile but persistent. In those early days, it might seem as if the garden will never bloom again, but gradually, the buds of hope start to show. And that, my dear, is the quiet magic of resilience. It doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly, moment by moment, through the act of living despite the pain. I've seen it happen many times. After a profound loss, you might find yourself in a sort of suspended animation, a state where every day feels like a repeat of the last, and the world seems to hold its breath. But then, sometimes out of nowhere, you'll experience a gentle shift. It might be in the form of a memory that brings a warm smile or a quiet moment watching the sunset that makes your heart stir, however slightly. These moments are like tiny seeds breaking through the hard crust of your grief. They remind you that while the shadow of loss may linger, there is also the promise of renewal. Now let's talk about the real work of healing. It isn't about simply getting over your pain as if it were an inconvenience to be set aside. No, true healing demands that you face every bit of that loss squarely and with honesty. It calls for you to unburden yourself of the need to stay numb, to let the flood of feelings wash over you and teach you something about what it means to be alive. When you allow yourself to fully feel the sorrow, to name it and to understand it, you create space within you for something new, a deeper sense of self-awareness and compassion that can only arise from having truly lived through loss. Some days are harder than others, my dear. There will be times when the emotional weight is almost too much to bear. I've sat through countless nights when it seemed like the darkness itself was pressing in on me. And in those moments, I had to remind myself that it's okay to feel lost. It's okay to admit that the journey is painful. The point is not to erase those feelings or to pretend that you're not hurting, but to let them be a part of your story. Grief is not a ghost to be banished, but a companion to be understood. A stern but honest teacher who tells you that life, in all its splendor and heartbreak, is worth every fleeting, beautiful moment. In this process of healing, it's essential to be mindful of the small victories. A day when you manage to smile through the tears, a moment when you remember a love that still warms you, even in its absence. These are the sparks that light your way forward. They may seem insignificant at first, but each of these fleeting moments builds up into a tapestry of hope, weaving itself into your very being. They remind you that life isn't about forgetting what was lost, but about preserving the essence of that love in the gentleness of your heart. Healing is an art, my dear, and like any art, it requires time, patience, and a great deal of tenderness toward oneself. It doesn't always follow the neat, linear path you might expect. Instead, it's more like a meandering river that ebbs and flows with the seasons of your life. Sometimes, you'll feel like you're back where you started, and that's all right. Progress isn't measured solely by the distance traveled, but by the way you learn to move differently, to approach the world with a newfound sense of empathy and understanding. I remember a time when the wound felt too deep, like an open chasm in my soul. Each day, I grappled with the relentless reminder of what was gone, and each night, the silence seemed to echo back the loss. But amid that desolation, I found that slowly, imperceptibly, the pain began to transform. It wasn't that it vanished completely. No, the memory of loss remained etched into the corners of my heart. But it began to coexist with other emotions. Gratitude for the moments of joy, a quiet pride in having loved so deeply, and even an emerging curiosity about the future. It is through this transformation that healing truly begins. And though the path is neither smooth nor predictable, it carries you forward. The journey of healing also teaches you about the intricate dance of self-care. This means not just tending to your physical needs, like eating well and getting enough rest, but also nurturing your emotional and mental well-being. It might be as simple as taking a quiet walk when the burden feels too heavy, or as profound as sitting with your feelings in silence, allowing yourself to process them without judgment. Sometimes, reaching out to a kind soul, a friend, a family member, or even a professional can be a crucial step in the healing process. Real healing happens when you accept that you can't do it all on your own and that leaning on others is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's important, my dear, to recognize that every person's journey with grief is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all formula, no secret recipe to make the sorrow vanish like magic. Instead, healing is a personal journey, filled with moments of insight and setbacks alike. There are days when every memory feels like a tender touch and the ache in your chest seems unbearable. And then there are days when the sun breaks through the gloom with such intensity that you're reminded of the beauty that still exists. Embrace both, the tears and the laughter, because they are all part of the mosaic of your experience. Let's keep it real, kid. Healing can be messy. There is no final destination where you can declare, "I'm done mourning." Rather, it's about learning to walk in the light and the darkness alike, understanding that even the deepest sorrow contains the seeds of future joy. It takes courage to let the pain in, to confront it head on, and ultimately to find a way to transform it into a strength that carries you onward. And though the scars of loss may never entirely fade, they serve as a reminder of your capacity to endure, to love, and to grow. So, as you move through the days of healing, remember that every step, no matter how small, is a testament to the resilience of your heart. Stay true to yourself, honor the memory of what you lost, and most importantly, allow yourself the grace to feel every emotion fully. In doing so, you build a foundation for a life that, while forever changed by loss, is enriched by the depth of your experience. And that, my dear, is as real and as beautiful as it gets. You know, my dear, as the seasons changed and the days folded into one another, a new chapter began to unfold, one that carried its own quiet battles and gentle triumphs. I started noticing that healing, like any great journey, doesn't have a neat beginning, middle, and end. Instead, it meanders through winding paths, sometimes unveiling moments of pure beauty amid the storm. I began to see that each day was not just about surviving the weight of loss, but slowly learning to live with it in a way that honored both memory and progress. There was a stretch of time when it felt as though every step forward was met by 2 steps back. I'd wake up with a resolve to embrace the day, only to find my mind drifting back to memories of long-gone laughter and voices silenced by time. In those moments, it was as if the past clung to me like a well-worn coat, comforting yet heavy, with its own bittersweet truths. I remember sitting on the porch one cool evening, watching the sky shift from a deep violet to soft hints of starlight, and I asked myself, how do I carry all this weight without losing myself? It was a question that echoed quietly in the space between my heartbeat and the rustle of the evening breeze. I realized, my dear, that the answer isn't found in wiping away your sorrow like a spill that can be cleaned up, nor is it about ignoring the deep grooves left by those you've lost. Instead, healing means accepting that loss and remembrance are intertwined parts of who you are. They shape you, inform you, and at times remind you of your vulnerability. Yet in that vulnerability lies a profound strength, a strength that comes from knowing that every wound, every tear, and every silent nod to the past is a testament to the love you once knew. And that love, no matter how dimmed by time, continues to serve as a quiet guardian of your soul. I remember a day when the weight of grief seemed nearly unbearable. The world outside was indifferent. A gentle drizzle washed over familiar streets, and the hum of everyday life went on, unaware of the internal maelstrom I was fighting. In that moment, I sat down with a cup of coffee that had long gone cold and allowed the thoughts to spill out like gentle confessions. I thought about the myriad ways love and loss had intertwined in my life, the friendships that had faded into echoes, the deep connections that left behind indelible marks, and the moments of laughter that now lived in the quiet corners of memory. And in that reflective solitude, I began to understand that every chapter of loss had its own weight, and every tear shed was also a sign of having been brave enough to feel. I came to see that healing isn't a process of erasing that weight entirely, but rather a gradual lightening of its burden. Imagine your heart as a field under a heavy snowfall. Each flake represents a memory, a moment of joy, or a shared embrace. In the beginning, the snow covers everything, blurring the landscape into a cold expanse. But as the sun starts to climb higher and days become a bit warmer, the snow begins to melt, revealing the contours of the field underneath. In the same way, as time passes, your memories, while never fully gone, begin to reveal the vibrant landscape of who you are now. There were nights when the stillness would be all-encompassing, and the silence would remind me of every loss in stark detail. On these nights, I learned to sit quietly with the grief rather than shoving it aside. I allowed the feelings to come in full, raw waves, the anger, the sadness, the sense of betrayal that life sometimes so unkindly delivers. And in the quiet aftermath of each emotional storm, a kind of clarity would emerge. It was as though, by feeling every bit of the pain without judgment, I allowed my mind to slowly stitch the broken fragments back together. There were no shortcuts, no magic cures, just the honest, gradual acceptance that every emotion was part of the tapestry of living. I began to understand, too, that part of the healing process is to recognize the moments where things feel almost normal. There would be instances when the world didn't seem so heavy, when a warm sunrise or a shared smile with a stranger gently reminded me that hope still lingered. Those moments felt like tiny rebellions against the vast weight of sorrow, and they gave me the courage to keep moving forward. It's not about pretending that the grief isn't there. It's about letting those fleeting moments of light break through the darkness and show you that life, despite all its challenges, still holds beauty. You see, my dear, the process of healing is intricate. It involves acknowledging that there will be setbacks and that some days the heaviness of loss might feel like it's pulling you under again. But each setback, each moment where tears blur your vision, is not a failure. It's part of a slow and necessary unraveling of old wounds. True healing is hard-earned. It comes from facing the torrent of pain head-on rather than bottling it up in a desperate bid for immediate relief. And while that may sound daunting, every minute you spend embracing these raw emotions is a step towards a more honest understanding of your inner self. There's a saying I once heard, and I come to believe it's true. It is through our deepest wounds that we learn the most profound lessons about life. The heart, when it's broken, sometimes finds a way to heal in the most unexpected places. I remember a time when I hesitated to feel the full depth of my sorrow, fearing that it might consume me entirely. But in that tender vulnerability, I discovered that the heart is far more resilient than we often give it credit for. With each tear, with every moment of despair, it learned to protect itself better while remaining open enough to love again. Sometimes the healing journey is as much about rediscovering parts of yourself that you might have forgotten as it is about mourning what's been lost. In the quiet moments of self-reflection, you might stumble upon passions or interests that were buried under the weight of past sorrows. Perhaps you'll find solace in a hobby once long neglected, a walk in nature, the turning of a page in a well-worn book, or the soft hum of an old melody. Each of these moments can be a quiet celebration of life, a gentle reminder that even after loss, there is a vibrant, untapped reservoir of energy within you, waiting to be nurtured. Healing also means being honest about your own needs. Sometimes that honesty means accepting that you're not ready to leap into new adventures, or that it might take time to rebuild your inner world. And that's perfectly fine. True healing isn't measured by how quickly you recover or how fast you move on. It's measured by the gradual returns of inner peace, the slow emergence of a smile, and the quiet realization that despite the shadows, you are still here, still capable of experiencing joy alongside sorrow. I learned that it's essential not to judge yourself too harshly during this process. There are days, my dear, when everything seems to fall apart and the storm of grief roars loud inside you. But in those moments, try to remember that each tear and every sigh is a necessary part of the journey. It's not about pushing away the pain and expecting it to vanish like mist in the morning light. Rather, it's about acknowledging that the heart's journey is full of valleys and peaks, and that sometimes the deepest valleys pave the way for a future filled with quiet strength. One of the most honest lessons I learned along this winding road is that healing is not a destination where the pain is completely erased, but a continuous process of growth and understanding. There is a raw, unspoken beauty in knowing that the intensity of your past emotions shapes a future where you are kinder, more empathetic, and more attuned to the fleeting nature of life. Each broken piece of your heart, over time, becomes part of a mosaic, a beautiful, if imperfect, picture that tells your unique story. And so, my dear, as you continue to navigate these winding paths, hold on to the thought that healing is both a journey and a testament to your resilience. Embrace the reality that loss has left its mark, and that every step forward is a silent celebration of your ability to endure. Remember that it's not about forcing yourself to feel better right away, but about gently allowing the process to unfold naturally, one moment of vulnerability at a time. Keep close the memories, for they are the echoes of a life deeply lived. At the same time, give space for the new, a fresh sunrise, a shared smile, or even a quiet pause where you let your heart whisper its secrets. Know that each of these moments, whether laced with sorrow or touched by joy, is a vital note in the symphony of your life. And within that grand unfolding melody, you will find the strength to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep loving despite it all. This is the raw, unvarnished truth of healing. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it requires all of your heart. Yet, it is precisely because of its imperfections that the journey holds its own quiet, undeniable beauty. Hold that truth close, my dear, and know that while loss may have cast its long shadow, it is in the persistent quest for light, however faint, that the true warmth of life is found. So now, my dear, if you made it this far with me, sitting quietly in the stillness, maybe feeling that lump in your throat or the soft sting behind your eyes, then let me tell you something important. You are already healing, not because it doesn't hurt anymore, but because you've allowed yourself to feel. You've listened. You've faced the silence rather than running from it. That alone is an act of courage most people will never recognize in themselves. And I want you to know, I see it in you. The road ahead may still hold storms. There will be days when the ache sneaks back in, uninvited. There will be moments when the memories strike out of nowhere like a scent in the air, a song on the radio, a familiar corner of your neighborhood, and your heart will tighten as if no time has passed at all. But now, you're not bracing for impact. You're bracing with wisdom, with grace, with the quiet knowing that pain can't unmake you. It can only deepen the story of who you are becoming. So when that next wave comes, don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it wash over you. Let it remind you that you loved, that you lived, and that you were brave enough to keep going. And after it passes, because it will pass, you'll find yourself once again on solid ground. Maybe not the same ground you stood on before, but something new, something honest, something earned. I won't promise that life gets easier, but I will promise that you will grow stronger, wiser, softer, in all the right ways. And that kind of strength, the quiet kind that bends but never breaks, that's the most powerful force there is. So take a breath. Close your eyes if you need to. Feel the warmth of this moment wrap around you like a soft blanket. You've carried so much. You've made it this far. And now it's time to keep walking. Slowly, gently, bravely. The world still has room for your laughter. Your story isn't over. You're still here. And that, my dear, that is enough.